Good evening and welcome to the Cabarrus County Board of Education special called meeting for Monday, August the 22nd, 2022. I will call the meeting to order and ask all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, I need a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item, which we will make it 5.1, and that's to authorize a purchase of a mobile unit.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Adcock and a second by Ms. Blackwell to amend the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now move to 4.01, which are the board chair comments, and it has been a whirlwind weekend and a whirlwind Monday. So I will just briefly tell y'all that we had the district chair, vice chair meeting this past Friday morning. Vice Chair Blackwell was with me and in Gastonia. Actually, it was in Belmont in Gaston County. So I'll send you out a report, but just long story short for the meeting for tonight, we're going to place on the September agenda the calendar flexibility discussion item, and I'll put out the discussion that surrounded that, and just so y'all are prepared for it, and just know that we'll be discussing that because we will need to go ahead and approve that 2023-2024 calendar. Okay, with that being said, I will pass it over to Dr. Kopicki for 4.02, superintendent comments. Key up, please.
We didn't actually add the item we needed to add. We just amended the agenda, but
you know what? Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. I appreciate that. Okay, let's back up for just a moment. We have amended the agenda, so now I need a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. A motion by Ms. Blackwell, a second by Ms. Carpenter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You're more with it tonight than I am. Thank you. Now, Dr. Kopicki.
Thank you, Ms. Grimsley. In order to move the meeting along, I'm going to save my comments for the 5.1 back to school updates, which is the main reason why we're here this evening, so I'm going to reserve any comments until then. But thank you, Mrs. Grimsley.
Thank you, Dr. Kopicki, and for the viewing audience that have joined us live stream and for those that are here with us, this meeting was called tonight. We've gotten a lot of comments about different parts and pieces that start the new school year, and spoke with Dr. Kopicki, and he has pulled his team together to do a presentation tonight to answer some questions and to get information out there and to get the year kick-started. We realize that there's a great distance of time between our last August meeting and our initial September work session meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can get started. Jonathan, I know Jay's not going to be here for a little while. Do you have anything for attorney comments? I was just going to pass it since he wasn't here yet. Are you good?
We're all set.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, then. The first folks that are going to present this evening are going to be Officer Van Shaw from Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office and Officer McGee from the Concord Police Department, along with Amy Lauder. They're going to talk this evening about our SROs and speak to the setup that we have at the various schools in the system in the Cabarrus County school system. I'd like to take a moment to thank both officers for being here, not only tonight, but also for all of your help throughout the school year. Oftentimes we have many conversations throughout the school year. Your support is deeply appreciated. Your professionalism is outstanding. Your dedication to our kids is second to none. We could not do what we do on a daily basis without either of you and your leadership, so I deeply appreciate all that you do in keeping your officers not only in our schools, but so highly well trained. We work with the best of the best when it comes to the police officers in our schools, and that's due to your leadership, so I appreciate that very much. So thank you for being here this evening to speak of that program And I also would like to commend Amy Lauder because she's kind of our go-to when it comes to anything safety in the district, and she is also the best of the best. As we pointed out, Amy has just been appointed to a national safety committee across the United States, so she's representing not only Cabarrus County but the entire country with her expertise and her knowledge, and bringing that back to our system to make sure that we are state of the art as well. So I thank Amy Lauder for her leadership as well. Folks?
Well, thank you, Board. I appreciate it. I'm Van Shaw. I'm the sheriff here in Cabarrus County. Just wanted to take a few moments to, give you a little bit of information related to our school resource officers and the schools that we cover. And also, thank Dr. Kopicki for the working relationship we have, as well with Amy Lauder. It's a great partnership. That's what this has been about from the very beginning, is a partnership, whether it's here locally or with the Department of Public Instruction, the SBI, NC Isaac. There's a number of players that people probably aren't familiar with. To address one thing, I know one of the most common questions I get is, are our officers trained? And yes, they are. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been providing response to active shooter training for years, for in excess of 10 years. We've done it in the schools. We've done it at other locations. We've utilized schools like the empty Mount Pleasant Middle School, but we've also done it at Hickory Ridge High. So we've done it at a number of different schools. We not only involve the school resource officers, because they're the first responders, they're there each and every day, but we also involve our patrol officers and officers in other divisions that are out and about. So our animal control officers receive the same training, because they may be on a call that they are the closest one to the school to be able to respond there. So we do it across the board. It's an ongoing every year. Many times it's incorporated to our mandatory state in-service training, the response to active shooter is, but it's also ingrained in our training regimen within the sheriff's office. Sometimes we do different refreshers just to make sure they understand our protocol, what our expectations are, and those types of things. So we really look at it from a holistic standpoint. We also include EMS in our training, and we also include the fire service in our training, because it's not only responding to and stopping that active shooter, it's also caring for the individuals that may have been harmed in that event. So we're very particular about that training, and also coordinating with other local agencies like Concord PD and Kannapolis PD. So we all are on the same sheet of music. This week, for example, there will be a meeting with the coordinators of our school resources program to talk about school safety, making sure everybody's on the same sheet of music and moving forward. But we also do a lot more throughout the year, and that's whether it's a threat assessment where a team is looking at individual threats, how they're coming, what we need to do to respond to them, and what we need to do to follow on, whether that be going to the student's home, talking with the parents, determining whether even a firearm exists within that home, and taking the appropriate action. One thing we've also done over this past year is entered into a pilot program with the North Carolina, what's called the Isaac Center, or the State Fusion Center. That's an information and sharing and analysis center for law enforcement and other public safety entities. We entered into a pilot program where we're providing information to them, as well as Alamance County Sheriff's Office, and they're feeding that information back. So when we get a threat in a school, whether it be a TikTok video or something like that, the Fusion Center may have already been able to determine that TikTok video originated out of California, and it's not at our school or targeting a specific school, but it's a general threat in general. Not that we don't take it seriously, but it does allow us to have a better understanding of where that threat originated from, versus a specific threat about a specific school and a specific incident. So we're trying to do a number of things like that to bring about this holistic. I really believe if we have a school shooting, it's a failure. That we should have been able to identify the threats, the individuals that need help, get them appropriate help, appropriate counseling, and have an intervention prior to the event happening at our schools. That's really ought to be our goal, is through all those things working together, we stop it before it happens. But we do need to be ready. We do need to talk about how ready we are, our readiness, our ability to take care of that issue. And we're very serious about that. So I'll stop there and let Major McGee.
Thank you. I'm Major Todd McGee with the Concord Police Department, and I oversee the school resource officer program in addition to some other responsibilities. Thank you for having me tonight. I would like to speak to the strong partnership between the Concord Police Department and the Cabarrus County Schools. We have 22 school resource officers assigned to 22 schools, so we don't have any vacancies in that program. We have one at each school that's allotted for. We have 2 sergeants that oversee those day-to-day operations, so in addition to the officers that are at the school, we have 2 sergeants that are traveling about throughout the day checking on the various schools and things going on at the schools. Like Sheriff Shaw said, we also subscribe to evidence-based best practices. So, our tactics and strategies, we just don't come up with them in a room. They're proven to be effective. And we operate under a national incident management system. So whether it's the Sheriff's Office or Concord Police responding, Kannapolis Police responding, we all have the same expectation of how to respond, which is important, especially in Cabarrus County, because there may be 4 or 5 Concord police officers and 3 or 4 deputies respond to the same location, but we all have the same understanding and expectations when we respond to any kind of threat at a school. School safety and security doesn't begin the week before school starts, and it doesn't end the last day of school. This is a year-round effort. We spent the better part of the summer with the sheriff's office and with employees of the school system trying to strengthen a very, very solid foundation that already exists for school safety and security. So we didn't stop when school stopped, and we sure didn't just pick up when school was coming back into session. It's a collaborative effort. And it's just not law enforcement. It can't be achieved in a vacuum. The Concord Police Department, the Sheriff's Office can't do this alone. It's the talented school employees that are here today. It's the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office, the Kannapolis Police Department, the State Bureau of Investigation, and private and public partners outside of that. It takes all of us to ensure school safety or to achieve school safety. And our work doesn't stop. School safety also extends beyond the walls of a brick and mortar school. That we can't just worry about the safety in the brick and mortar school. That extends to the community. And the important part is building relationships with just not the students, but also the staff in the community. Those relationships extend into the school and they extend out of the school. So it's cool to see that the officers that have established relationships in the community that are able to translate into school relationships, and then later on in life we see those same relationships outside. I say all that to talk about the importance of communication. If we have good, strong relationships with students and staff, then we're able to get that information on the front side that Sheriff Shaw was talking about, where we can vet those threats or we can vet concerns quickly and come to some kind of resolution faster. So we are definitely thankful for the relationship that we have with the Cabarrus County school system, the administration especially. Amy here, she's my right-hand person as far as school safety, and that's who I talk to a lot, but also for our local partners, our local law enforcement partners, and all the partners that can help us achieve the school safety. So thank you once again.
So, Ms. Louder, I want to recognize you for your piece and part in our district meeting Friday morning with our representatives. Amy actually presented part of our program for safety because we know everyone is extremely concerned about that, and that's probably one of the most largest group of emails that we all get as board members. And of course we want our parents to feel safe sending their kids. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate that. We get a lot of what's the difference between the city and the county schools. Is there anything done differently? Is there processes that are different? We get a lot of questions about why does the city do the city? Why does the county do the county? Why does the county not take care of all of the schools completely? So I don't know if y'all want to speak to that. I'm not sure. We had kind of thought, well, that wasn't a real important issue, but if there are some differences, if you want to recognize those, that would be helpful. That's about the only question that we've gotten, I think, that you didn't answer tonight.
I'll speak briefly to Concord, and then I'll let the sheriff take over the overall part. There's no difference. So a City of Concord police officer or a sheriff's deputy is trained exactly the same. They have the same academic curriculum for the school resource officer. They have the same state requirements for the continuing education. They operate the same. I have a very good relationship with Lieutenant Elwood, and so we're constantly communicating. It's the same job, it's the same expectations. We're trained the same. We do a lot of dual training. A lot of times Concord police officers and sheriff's deputies are trained in the same training classroom or the same training environment. As to why Concord or Kannapolis, we serve the schools that are inside the city of Concord. Naturally, we wouldn't serve any that are outside the city, and I'll let the sheriff speak to the rest of that as far as jurisdiction.
To speak to how it originally came about, I really can't speak to that. I think the easiest term to use is this a shared responsibility, and schools that are within the city of Concord, the city of Kannapolis is a little bit different because it's grown. So there are schools that we cover that are in the city of Concord, but we historically had them, and instead of changing over, they retain within the county. We do cover schools in the city of Kannapolis. So there is a mixture. It's not hard lines. We work together. We do a lot of things jointly, whether they're football games or other, extracurricular activities. So is there a methodology behind it? No. And I think Major McGee has spoke to it very well in that everybody's trained the same. Everybody has the same expectations of these officers, and they work together well.
I did have one thought while the sheriff was talking that I wanted to add, but that goes back to my building meaningful relationships that extend into and out of the schools. Should Concord Police not serve schools inside the city, we wouldn't be able to take those relationships that we build in a community into the school, and we wouldn't have that benefit later outside of the school. So our officers that work our streets in the city of Concord get to build those relationships and then have those same relationships in the school. So it strengthens the school safety and security. It strengthens everything about the day, and a lot of times those children have a familiar face that they met in the community that's now in their school, and the transition's easier than just have somebody that they would only see occasionally in a school.
That is great, Todd. Thank you for those. And before I turn it over to the board, I just want to say thank you to our officers that are here with us tonight and that cover all of our meetings, and thank you for that as well. So I'm going to start with Board Member Adcock.
Well, thank you to Ms. Louder, Mr. Shaw, Mr. McGee for being here. I know that school safety is top of mind for our parents, and to hear all of this is really great. I really love the holistic approach. I love that you're proactive to identify threats before they become issues, and just the whole relationship and partnership that we have with you makes me feel really good. And so thank you for all that you're doing for our students and for helping our parents to know that our schools are safe.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
Well, I just want to thank you, and I'm still waiting to breach a door because I did have that training. And but one question that I know that you had mentioned that you had 22 officers. How many do we have sheriff-wise?
We cover 18 schools in the county.
Okay.
And like I said, to include some that are in the cities, and we have 2 sergeants that supervise those, as well as Lieutenant Barrett, Lieutenant Elwood, rather, that oversees our entire SRO program.
Okay.
So it's 20. We have 21 assigned to the school resource officer division, and 18 of those are in schools.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. But you do an outstanding. I'm just so proud of all our officers and all the ones that work with us. It is. I have never. I'm just so proud of everybody that, and they all seem to work so well together. And I have been very fortunate being on the safety committee and being able to be in some of the active shooter simulations we had over in Concord, down in Mount Pleasant, and it is just a real honor to be able to work with the safety committee and with the officers and everything. And thank you very much.
Ms. Blackwell.
So I'm just going to say, Carolyn, if you get to breach a door, sign me up because I want to be there to see that happen for sure. Again, I'm just going to echo what they said as well. We could not do this without you. All of your police officers and sheriff's deputies are just top notch. We are just so grateful and thankful that we have you in our communities and that we have you in our schools. And I know just sending my children to school every day, I know that I feel safer knowing that you guys are there and well trained, and we just couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Furr?
Yes. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to all three of you. I've never, I've had kids that went through the school system, now grandkids, and I know every day they're safe. And I think you guys probably are probably the top notch in North Carolina, and this board certainly recognizes that and appreciates everything you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Walter?
I'm going to echo my fellow board members, the appreciation that we have for having law enforcement in schools trained, and not just that, just the engagement that you have with our students and our families. That does mean a lot. My questions earlier I had here, if I missed it, was cybersecurity. Do we have any additional focus on that, or what do we do with that, since there's so much online stuff going on now?
I mentioned it briefly with our partnership with the State Fusion Center. One of the things that you don't want to do is live in a silo when it comes to information and trends and those types of threats that are coming out. The Fusion Center is great at taking information from everywhere across the state and across the country and letting us know what they're seeing. And our hope is, through this pilot program, that we'll be getting notifications before it ever reaches our school, especially those things that are from out of state. I'll give you a perfect example. We worked together ourselves in Concord PD a couple of years back on bomb threat that came in, and that bomb threat basically targeted just generally the schools. So we ramped up. We got bomb dogs, bomb squads, officers at every school. Schools were evacuated. That threat was actually from out of the country, and it went to multiple school districts across the United States. But because it was so vague, and at that time nobody was really looking at that cybersecurity standpoint from at least the threat aspect, our response was tremendous. But the reality was it was a threat totally that was bogus as far as our school system and directed at our school system, and really all the other ones. We're seeing a lot of that, but you can't take any one of them for granted. You have to run them all out. It's just how quickly can we do it, and how can we leverage technology to be able to do it quicker. So that's what we continue to work on from that standpoint, if that helps answer your question.
So that collaborative service gives you the heads up that of the threat, or you take the threat and you send it to them, and
it works both ways. It works both ways. The concept is currently there's 2 sheriff's offices that are participating, and we've already seen a positive result of that we are contributing information saying we see this, and they go, okay, well, we just heard about that last night. Well, we know it. Isaac has run it down and knows where it's from, and they're able to share it with Alamance County. And what the goal is for that to be in all 100 counties, so that there's this information coming in. It's not only coming in, it's being vetted, it's being analyzed, and then it's being pushed back out. And the Fusion Center is something that's been in place really since 9/11 and dealt with terrorist threats, domestic and foreign, different organized crime groups. Now, with an extra step, we're looking at the threats to our schools. So it's a perfect place for some of that to live and be exchanged and be effective, because the infrastructure is already there. We're utilizing it for one more reason, and it's been extremely effective in the past.
Thank you for that briefing, and thanks for everything you do and the visibility that you have in our community.
Ms. Sandage?
I'm also going to echo the rest of the board members and just saying thank you for your service. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate being able to see officers when I drop my daughter off to school in the morning. So I'll start there. I heard 22 and 18. You said 22, and then you said 18 of your officers cover our school. That equates to about 40. can you tell me where the other few come from? Because is there an officer in every single school?
Not in every single school, no. I mean, to speak specifically to you, that would encompass the early colleges campuses. And currently, we do not have personnel assigned. We're talking, we're trying to work out the personnel, the financing, those types of things to put someone there, and working through that. Those campuses, at least two of them, CBTC as well as South Campus, we had off-duty officers there for a period of time, and that changed around May, and so it highlighted it even more that there wasn't an officer on that campus. So we've been working together, Dr. Kopicki, myself, county management, to try and come up with a solution to that.
And is there anything that this board can do to help you find a solution?
Dr. Kopicki is on top of it.
Okay.
He's a good partner, and we're working together and communicating quite often and trying to get there.
I think too, just to make note of this, when people see things that are happening all across the country, there's this heightened level of, need for security, and this reiteration of how we protect our schools helps for our parents to feel secure in their children being safe in our schools. However, if there is a question that somebody might have post this presentation, what is a suggestion for them getting that question answered as it relates to safety in our schools? I hope that question made sense. So if I got a question, if I'm a parent at home and I'm looking at this and my specific questions around safety were not answered, where do I go to for that?
I would suggest that if they have a specific concern about a specific school, that they can start with their school resource officer, because that particular officer would be most familiar with that campus. If they have broader concerns, they can certainly call myself or Sheriff Shaw if they have a broad concern, or Amy. But if it's a particular school, the SRO would be the best resource at that particular school.
Thank y'all. And my last question is, so there's a lot of confusion around if I hear something happening that's of a safety concern for me, and it could be a specific school, it could be, I don't know where this originates. Do I need to call 911 or do I need to call that specific school?
So we have the partnership with the Say Something Anonymous reporting system. So I would say if it is an urgent, imminent, there is a dangerous situation occurring, 911 needs to be called. However, if they are seeing something that's a little bit unusual, if they have information about a student that they care about that they want to get some additional support for, the Say Something tip line would also be a resource that they could utilize.
Thanks again for the presentation.
Just a quick point of clarity, with the exception of the early colleges, which we are working through those details, all the high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools have armed SROs in the buildings, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is correct.
I just want to make sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here tonight with us. We really appreciate it, especially this last minute notice. And I think now, parents and staff are going to understand just how much resources go into making sure that kids and staff are secure and safe in our school system. Anything else for tonight? Amy, anything from your end?
I just once again want to highlight the partnership and the collaboration, the communication piece. It does take the whole village. That whole concept is very important as we're trying to keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mrs. Louder. Now we're going to update the rest of the board, the community, and the audience here this evening. We're going to go through the 3 assistant superintendent leaders in our district to talk about our high school, middle, and elementary school. I'd also like to thank the principals that are here this evening to discuss a little bit about some of their accomplishments and challenges that they have gone through this summer to prepare to open our schools on Monday the 29th. So thank you for being here this evening. We will start with Mr. Gordon Palmer, and with him this evening is Mr. Dennis Hobbs from J.M. Robinson, Dr. Adam Aubach from Concord High School, and Christopher Myers from Northwest Cabarrus High School. Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. Chairman Grimsley, members of the board, Dr. Kapicki. It's my pleasure to speak to you tonight on behalf of the high schools. So we've done a lot of work this summer, and we kicked it off at our Leadership Academy, where we had Jimmy Cassis come, and he was our keynote speaker, where we had all of our administrators working together to set the tone and set expectations for the upcoming school year. I've worked in other districts where we wait until August to do that, but not in Cabarrus County. We are further ahead, and we said we were going to meet in June. We're going to get everyone on the same page so that we can set our goals and everyone can work throughout the summer to set their expectations, and utilizing our Culturize book, which every staff member just got a copy of that last week. We also have already started our early colleges, so they are already back in school. They came back to school on August 8th. They've had open houses, they've had grade level meetings, they've had transition camps where they brought in their ninth graders. They've also had their initial meetings as we have a new early college in our Cabarrus Health Science Institute. I was able to attend the early college open house, which was an amazing event, very well run. They had music, food, it was extremely organized, and Dr. Brown did a great job welcoming her students and her new students and families to that culture and environment. I was also able to go to a transition camp where Cab Tech had their upperclassmen and their staff welcoming their new ninth grade students. Their upperclassmen are known as Sherpas, so that they are well taken care of their younger new students, so that if they have an issue, if they have a question, they don't know where to go, or they just need some advice, they have some upperclassmen that they can utilize to help answer those questions in addition to their staff. We also had this is our inaugural year of the Cabarrus Health Science Institute, and speaking with Atrium Health, looking 10 years into the future, we're going to have potentially tens of thousands of nursing vacancies along with other healthcare providers, shortages. So this is an excellent opportunity for us to provide for our community, and also great employment opportunities for our students through this program. I was there on their first day as they were welcoming in. They had a large welcoming committee when students were getting out of their cars and getting off the bus to start this new journey at the Health Science Institute. We also have athletics that have already started up. August 1st, they kick off, and Mr. Tyson will speak more to that tonight, I believe. But I'd like to mention that Mount Pleasant won their home opener on their new turf field. We don't want to celebrate too much because it was against Central Cabarrus, so I don't want to go too far into that. But we are happy that they were playing on their new turf field. We also had teachers and staff representing Cabarrus County Schools at the Charlotte FC soccer game, where they got to go out and hold the flag at the beginning of the game. We've also worked a lot with schools to support them throughout the summer. We've got a district contract with eHall Pass, which we were able to set up for the high schools. They were already using it. A couple of schools weren't. We got them on board, but we were able to save thousands of dollars through a district contract. Also, same thing with Educator's Handbook. We just had our RISE professional development, which was last week. That was great. I see we've got our feet on the ground now from the hot air balloon, but that we have received a lot of positive feedback to kick off the year the right way. We've worked with RCCC and CCRG to help make sure that our students who are taking remedial classes can get, well, basically they won't have to take remedial classes when they get to community college through the CCRG process. We had summer graduation. We've also worked with Equal Opportunity Schools to review that data to support our students reaching their full potential. So with all that, I would also like to introduce our three principals who are going to come up here and talk to you about the exciting things and the excitement that is happening at their schools to start the school year. We have from Concord, Dr. Albrecht, Adam, and he is bringing his trophy up here as well.
I take it everywhere. So, good evening. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like some of you have seen a lot lately. So, you know, we were at the Charlotte FC game, up in the balloons, kind of a little bit everywhere. So we're ready at Concord. We're really excited. We are all in this year. That's our theme at Concord High School. And I want to just highlight 3 of the ways that we are all in and ready to go. First is our staff. So the RISE conference last week was great. Not just because of the hot air balloon, everything there was great. I bring the trophy because our staff won the Secondary Spirit Award. The staff was all in. They were having a great time. Yeah, I might have been waving the flag, but they were all in and really enjoying it. They loved the workshops and time to be able to network and the fun and everything that went with it. So our staff is definitely ready to go and ready to welcome back kids. Number 2, the students. It's all about the students, right? So we've had some students already on campus. You know, we mentioned sports. Band is already there, but we have more students participating in our football and our band and our fall sports, which have taken kind of a hit over the last couple of years, some of the extracurricular activities, but to see our numbers going up is great. They're rising. So we're really excited about that. Our turf field's not quite there, but it's getting there. But we've had our freshmen on campus, so our 3 academies, our IB freshmen that are coming have been there already for a transition camp. Our AOHT and our public safety students, as well as our all of our other freshmen. We had over 100 freshmen on Friday, there last Friday for a transition camp. So the kids are excited. It's great to hear them in the halls, like freshmen are in the halls. So they were really ready to go. And then third, I'll say, is the facilities and maintenance department has done a great job working on things. You know, our building is vintage. It's a little older, but working on some things. Again, thank you for the check for the kitchen. Our culinary kitchen is rocking and rolling. I mean, they've blown out that wall, putting in some doors, drains. I mean, it's rocking and rolling. They're not quite done yet. We can't cook quite yet, but it's coming along. Our turf field. It's not quite done. We found some sewer pipes and drain pipes and some other things buried under, 50 years worth of stuff down there, but we should be there by our next home game. Friday night we played, which was supposed to be our first home game, but it was really neat. We actually went down to Webb Field, where the Spiders got their name from. It was a really neat community event. Score's not important, but the community really enjoyed what happened Friday night. We had a great time. We recognized the 1966 team that was the last team to play on the field, so there was a bunch of members from there. So it was a really great night. Weather was really nice too for an August night. So those are 3 areas at Concord that we are ready to go and all in.
Adam, could you update us on your staffing situation at Concord High School?
Yeah, all of our instructional staff has been hired and on board since I think late July, so we're ready to go.
Why don't you let Chris and Dennis, if you would, and then they can ask questions. Okay.
Dr. Albrecht, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers?
Yep. So everybody keeps talking about turf. I guess Northwest, we missed that memo.
I'm going to mute your mic real fast.
We play on an old field, but we're super excited about hopefully 4 years down the line. Now, I will say that on Friday night we went to one of these nice new turf fields, and we won 33-13. So we'll take that and look for 4 years down the road for 2026. But no, first of all, welcome everybody. I do appreciate being asked to come here and speak, and I can't say enough positive things about what has been going on in Cabarrus County Schools. I actually want to dial it back a little bit to May. And there was an event that took place in May, and I felt like throughout the year there was all this momentum building. And it was great. The kids were great. And every time somebody would ask me, how are things at Northwest? I'm like, it's as great as it could be. I mean, obviously we, still are going through the stages of a pandemic, but nonetheless, the kids, the staff, everybody's super excited, the community. And then I had the opportunity to go up to Davie County on a Friday in May, and it was a regional track meet. And there was a young lady who was a junior, now she'll be a senior. And the year before that, she was on the track team, and wasn't the fastest by any means, but this year had really come into her own. And if she got 3rd place at regional, she was going to qualify for the state meet. And so the first lap, it's a 1600, it's 4 laps, and I'm standing there, and I'm about 10 yards away is a man who's yelling for this young lady, and I'm yelling for this young lady, so now it's kind of awkward. I need to go introduce myself to the man. I'm assuming it's Dad, and he was excited that I was there and watching, and we're making small talk as she's getting closer and closer, and she's kicking, and just the excitement. He and I are going nuts over the course of 3 laps. Now we're into the 4th lap, And not only does she catch her rival that had beaten her, she had beaten her, they'd gone back and forth, but qualifies for the state track meet, breaks her personal record. And spontaneously, Dad, who I just introduced myself to, just like or just grabs me and bear hugs me. And it was just really, really awesome because it kind of hit home that this is what the high school experience is all about. This is what it should be. And then I walked away from that to reposition myself, and 10 minutes later, I saw the same young lady coming, and I saw Dad coming, and it was straight out of like a Kodak moment, just the embrace. And it's like, I went home and I told my wife, I said, I hope my son gets to experience something like that, and I do. And it was just, I mean, that sort of brought it all together. And then in the weeks right after that, we had the prom, and we had graduation, and it was normal, and the smiles and the excitement. And then we go on vacation, and we're excited this long year, and then we have to come back for leadership week. And I will tell you, there's a point to this. I'm gonna water it down a little bit. So we always do this, usually the second week out, for a whole week. And for those people that know me, I'm not the most excited guy when it comes to meetings. And so on Thursday of that week, I'm standing in our kitchen by our island there, and my wife is like, "You seem really happy. That's not the norm after leadership week." Not that I'm unhappy, and it was because of the vibe, it was because of the energy, it was because of the excitement that was brought to all of us that week. Jimmy Cassis was amazing. Maybe his delivery might have had something to do with the reason why I was so excited, a little bit unorthodox, but just really excited by that. And then Gordon challenged us to that afternoon. He said, "Now, I want you guys over the coming weeks to come up with action plans, and I want you to get it to us by the end of July." And so our admin team went back to Northwest, and we did it over 4 hours that day. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not the quickest to, if the deadline's going to be July 31st, it's going to get there probably August 1st. So we got it to you that afternoon, that Thursday afternoon, and just super excited about some of the things that we're doing or going to be doing, really inspired by that leadership. One of those was mentioned earlier, equal opportunity schools. We looked at our EVOS data, we looked at our kids' testing data all the way back, and we identified so many students that we at Northwest need to challenge in honors classes. And we communicated with parents, and we're excited about that, and we had wonderful feedback from the parents. So we moved those students from irregular classes to honors classes because that's what kids deserve, and that's what their parents deserve as well. So we're super excited about that. From a safety perspective, I can't imagine a place that's more safe than what Cabarrus County Schools has been. Amy Lauder does an exceptional job. Lieutenant Elwood, Major McGee, Sheriff Shaw, Sergeant Zabo. I mean, just that is constant there. We have that support. Anytime we have a question, we reach out to Cabinet, we reach out to Dr. Kapicki, to Gordon Palmer. I mean, that's been just amazing, and just it built throughout the summer, and then it really culminated on Thursday with our RISE conference. Extremely proud Northwest. We had 5 different presentations that took place that day, so that was awesome. And our teachers came back and were just absolutely thrilled by it. Said it's the best. I did get an email from one teacher, said it's the best PD that she has experienced in 19 years here at Cabarrus County Schools. I'm just looking down because I don't want to miss anything. I mean, I could do a Ric Flair and woo you guys up here because we're so excited. Carried it over. A staff meeting was so super exciting on Tuesday last week. And honestly, I don't remember ever being this excited about opening school as we are right now. And certainly then Friday night, at West Cabarrus, it was just outstanding just to see the kids from both schools, hear the band, hear the hits, sound of the whistle. It was great. So we're excited at Northwest.
Please make sure that opening happens on August 29th, Chris, and not August 30th.
That will happen, yes.
Yeah. We know you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Appreciate it.
Now I'd like to call Dennis Hobbs from J.M. Robinson.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here. I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but I'm gonna try. But just kind of talk a little bit about Mr. Myers talked about too. There's just a different energy and different feel to the school year this year. I will tell you. So J.M. Robinson being the host of the RISE conference, we were kind of kicked out of our building for a few days and things being set up and going there. But our staff was excited. There wasn't any negative energy. They knew they weren't being in their rooms. But when so the good thing is on Wednesday while elementary was there, I took the staff to Great Wolf Lodge. We kind of made a partnership with them in the spring, and so we went there. And I had staff that were just amazing. Just thought it was amazing and having fun and being able to do things and just kind of taking our opening staff meeting somewhere different. just to be able to really kind of get to know each other, build relationships, and do some things. So, and then they came in on Wednesday or Thursday and had a great conference. And I've heard nothing but great comments and from our staff. They still to this day got a note today from a teacher saying, "Hey, this is a great start so far. We're so excited." So it's just a good place right now where we're at as a school district, I think. Sometimes high school, it's hard to kind of get us motivated and amped up and motivated, but even at the Raj conference, like we brought the energy and we were there, and our staff and our teachers are really excited. A couple of other things too, just kind of be excited about, and it kind of like it goes back to last year. I think we ended last year on a high note, good note, and it's continuing throughout the summer. I don't know where summer went, but it continued throughout the summer, and we're ready to go this year. So a couple of things that we're excited about over at Robinson's. We're excited about, we have our staff, and we have some new staff there at Robinson, and a lot of great people. And our veteran staff is excited to work with new staff and get them on board as well. We're excited about, we have a new EC Adaptive Learning Transition Program. So this program is new for our EC students in our adaptive curriculum. It's going to give them opportunities to really work on life skills. So a lot of them, we graduated 21 kids last year from our EC Live and Learn last year. And so a lot of those kids are coming back next year, coming back this year to really learn life skills, how to, prep bids, how to take care of themselves, and life skills. They go to job sites. Another thing I heard a lot about safety. So one of the big things that's happening this summer and still working on is we're going to call it our Bulldog Suite, which is our front office area that they're kind of constructing, which is going to be really good. As you know, Ben J. Robinson has a long hallways to get to the front office, so that's really going to be able to secure our schools for when parents and visitors come into our school. So we're excited about that as well. A couple of things for students that we're excited about is just we've really kind of merged our leadership group of kids with our student council, and we have a leadership class. Really try to fine tune and really build leadership within our kids in our school. That's one of the biggest things we worked on last year. Only sort of something and continuing to this year. And just a lot of other things. Our engineering program, the Academy of Engineering is great. 3 years in a row now, we have sent a student to NC State with the Park Scholarship, which is a huge accomplishment, and that just goes forward to show how important and impactful our engineering program is at Robinson, and all the teachers and what they're doing there. And then just kind of brag a little bit about our extracurriculars. Our robotics team does an amazing job. Last year we had 4 state championships, and then we had 4 teams compete at world events last year for robotics. So they're doing a lot of good things and learning more than just robotics, but a lot about leadership and teamwork. Also just athletically, we're kind of continuing to build, between robotics and athletics last year, just to help continue to boost leadership, can boost collaboration, and just boost those kids. Of our 17 sports programs, 9 of them qualified, got a berth for state playoffs last year, and we actually had two win state championships, our basketball team and our women's tennis individual play, and we had another student who finished runner-up in the states. And then a lot of you talking about the Charlotte Soccer Club, Charlotte FC. One of the students on that team was a former Robinson Bulldog last year who is now, I think, at the virtual academy, but he was one of ours. So I received a lot of messages and a lot of text messages from people saying, "Is that your kid?" And so we're really proud of that. So there's a lot of good things going on at Robinson. And one of the most exciting things, too, is just having the new Roberta Road Middle School opening up, to have a feeder school and kind of help continue to build that culture in that community between Robinson and our area and our neighborhood. So those are some of the good things that's really going on at Robinson that we're really looking forward to and excited about this school year.
And then a staffing at your building?
Staffing our building, we started off the year in the summer about 12 to 15 openings in the beginning of the year, and then we end up filling all of our positions. We have about 4 that's still open, 2 of them are in processing, and the other 2 we have some plans to get things together to really get our kids that education they need to be successful. Yep.
Board members, any comments or questions for high school? I'll begin with Ms. Sandage. Any comments or questions?
So I'll just save my questions till after we hear from everybody, if that's all right.
That's good. Mr. Walter?
I appreciate Mr. Meyer's story. That was really inspiring. And thank you guys for giving us the updates.
Mr. Furr?
Yeah, I just tell Mr. Myers, he may not have turf, but he's got the best field in Cabarrus County, especially in October. And also, Mr. Hobbs, I'd really appreciate it if you would keep your son at home Friday night.
I knew I should have called this meeting. Miss Blackwell?
So I definitely wanted to ask, and Mr. Hobbs, you kind of mentioned something about this, visitors. And I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question or not, but since we're talking about starting school back and how we're going to be transitioning into that, I want to make sure that we are allowing, or how the process is going to work with allowing visitors and parents to come back into the schools as we start the new school year.
You can address that now or after?
Yeah, so what I would say to that is we will be welcoming our parents and visitors back, but we have to follow the appropriate safety protocols and processes as to how people come in and out of buildings. We want engagement with parents. We also have to make sure we follow the policies and procedures that keep buildings safe. So it's not, it's always that careful balance. You don't want to push anybody away, but we have to understand that we can't have everybody just walking through the doors either, especially in today's day and age. But we definitely want our parents to be welcomed and feel as part of the process of the educational situation that goes on in every school. I think it's probably more of a challenge for elementary principals, because I think that's where a lot of that visitation type stuff took place. We do have a pre-K-12 meeting coming up, so we will talk to our principals about that. But I do not want to put anybody on the spot tonight on that particular question, because we haven't had a chance to engage all of our principals with that particular topic. So in saying that, I understand this has been an issue because pre-pandemic we were under certain circumstances. Pandemic hits, we kind of shut doors, everybody stay away, and now we're slowly engaging back in. So I think we're going to get to a happy medium during the school year very soon, within the first month of school. But again, I don't want to mislead anybody. I want to talk to our principals first. But to be clear, we definitely want to engage our parents and welcome them into our schools, as long as we're following the appropriate process and protocols in place.
Can I ask another question to that? So first day of school, are parents going to be welcomed into the school to drop their children off? As we move forward with elementary school, parents, are used to or accustomed to being able to drop their kids off and seeing them to their classrooms, and we haven't been able to do that in quite some time.
Yeah, so I would say that's a lot with the open houses, and the back to school nights are for the first day of school. I would say we're not going to allow anybody coming into the buildings. It's too chaotic, and there's too much going on day one. So we're asking parents to be patient with us as we get ourselves back to a place where we're at a happy medium with welcoming people in. But day one, I can tell you in my experience as a principal, it is one of the most chaotic days is day one. You really don't want a lot of people coming in and out of the buildings. You want to get the kids in the building, get them into the routine, get them into their structure, let them get comfortable with the accommodation of the school. There's a lot of things that take place day one. I know people don't want to hear it, but to be frank, it's not the most conducive or best practice to have parents coming into the building day one. We just want them to drop our kids off, have trust and faith in us, and we will get to a place where we have an appropriate visitation policy in place.
Ms. Carpenter?
I have no questions at this time. I want to wait till I hear everything.
Ms. Adcock?
Well, I just want to say to Mr. Myers, Mr. Hobbs, and Mr. Arbach that I am so excited. I have got all this momentum. I'm inspired, and I have energy, and I want to go back to high school. I mean it. I just love hearing all of these things, and I really love just the excitement and the energy that you brought here tonight. And as leaders, I just love seeing that you're going to go back in your schools and spread that same energy, because that is really contagious. And all of the people that report up to you will feel it too, and so will the teachers, and just continue to think about how you can continue that momentum and that energy, that positive energy. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now for middle school, Mrs. Anna Blessington. And the middle school principals, I know you're all here. I know Mrs. Tanya Williams is here. If you can just stand and make this easy for me. I know who I spoke with that are here. Mr. Stephen Bookhart from Harris Road, Rebecca Phillips from Harold Winkler, Christy Bullock from Roberta Road, and Tanya Williams from Concord Middle School are here representing the middle schools. Thank you for being here this evening, Mrs. Blessington.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Dr. Kopicki. I'm Anna Blessington, Assistant Superintendent of Middle Schools, and I'm excited to welcome our 4 incredible middle school principals. But before I welcome them, I wanted to share with you a couple pieces of middle school news. First of all, Royal Oaks School of the Arts has its first 8th grade class this year, creating a full K-8 school. So we are very excited about that. Also, as many of you are aware, Roberta Road Middle School had its dedication today. Ms. Bullock may speak to that further in a moment, but what a stunning school building it is. But a house is simply a house. It is the people in the house that makes a house a home. And having been fortunate enough to already begin working with all of our middle school principals and assistant principals, I can assure you and our community that they are an excellent group of school leaders who have huge hearts for their students. In fact, I got excited when I was asked by Rick Money, the principal at Mount Pleasant Middle School, to come join him on the first day back with staff. And he had some really compelling stories. And one of the things he asked all of the staff to do was write a letter to themselves with all of their goals for this coming school year. And I was allowed to be a part of that as well. And he said, well, I'll make sure I get that letter to you. I was like, no. I'm supposed to be in the school building with all of you, and I cannot wait to sit down with you and us open our letters together at the end of the year and see that we have been successful with all of our goals that we've set, and I know his staff will be doing the same as well. Also, after the incredible RISE conference and the amazing educators who represented their schools so well, I have no doubt our middle schoolers will be entering schools where there is a sense of excitement as well as love and learning. I wouldn't mind taking a moment to give a little shout out to our student participants that were a part of RISE. We had some great students from Robinson assisting as student volunteers for our coffee stations. We had multiple students from early college. Our Northwest High and Robinson ROTC students volunteered. We had DECA students volunteering that day. We had our MCs for the closing ceremony, one rising 9th grader at West Cabarrus High School, one rising 9th grader at Northwest High. The J-Rob drumline and cheerleaders were present, mascots from various different schools. We also had the Robinson Robotics speak to the crowd, as well as a wonderful young lady from Coltrane Webb sharing her Letterland character with us. We had dancers from Winkler Dance Team. We had the West Cabarrus Brass Ensemble perform. We had Cox Mill Elementary NCDPI leadership team share their points of leadership with the group. We also had Mandarin students from Roberta Road Middle School and Harris Road Middle School and kind of flipped the classroom and taught the teachers the acronyms of RISE and the word RISE, which interestingly enough means happy together. And that's exactly what that experience was all about. So from school leaders to teachers, to staff and SROs, our middle schoolers are in good hands. And our community can experience that themselves at the upcoming middle school open houses, which will take place on Wednesday, August the 24th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. The only exceptions are Royal Oaks School of the Arts, which is going to be on Thursday the 25th from 4 to 7 p.m. drop in, and then the Cabarrus Virtual Academy, which is going to be on Thursday, August the 25th from 6 to 7:30. So come on out to your child's school and experience the excellence that is Cabarrus County Schools. And without further ado, once again, I'll welcome Christy Bullock from Roberta Road Middle School, Stephen Bookhart, Harris Road Middle School, Tanya Williams, Concord Middle School, and Rebecca Phillips, Winkler Middle School. Thank you so much.
It's whatever order. Whatever order. Stephen indicated he wanted to speak first. I just told him you need to clarify that he was
All right. Good evening. It's good to see you guys again today. I appreciate all of your attendance at our building dedication, but tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but more about all the other wonderful things that are happening. And so I am Christy Bullock, the inaugural principal, I like saying that, at Roberta Road Middle School. So some of the great things that are happening at our facility so far. Well, number one, we're just super excited that we're going to be opening the doors a week from today to, it looks like 960, and that number's growing slightly daily, but 960 students are going to walk through that door on Monday, and we're just so excited about it. We did have our building dedication today where a lot of those families were able to come and just kind of see the space, and it's so much fun. Just watch them. They get so excited, and I hear so many parents say, I never had a school like this. And so they're very excited about things like the collaborative learning spaces. And again, my challenge to them before they went on their tours was to really look at those spaces and imagine what those students, learning opportunities could be in those spaces. It's big and beautiful, but it's very intentional. Right. I want to be honest about this hiring season. You guys know, you've heard it's not been easy. For me, it started in December and it finished, this morning. And so we've had just such tremendous support, though, because the goal the whole time was for us to never lower our standards for what we expect here in Cabarrus County. And I think that we've been able to do that. Just, when you think about the folks that we met at the new teacher orientation events that our Human Resources Department designed for those folks, you just quality oozing from those experiences. And I'm excited about the new people that we have. But we don't lower our standards. The reason that we finished this morning is because, we have some folks that we have a rigorous process, and if they don't meet the pre-employment screening process, they don't get to join our family. We expect nothing but the best here, and so when you get that word that some have not passed that process, then we start over again, and we find the next group of really excellent candidates. And so I'm excited to we're going to have 64 certified staff members, and of those, just to kind of give you guys a breakdown, when there's a new school, I always think it's interesting, where did you get these people? And so of those 64 certified staff members, I've got 36 of those that transitioned from within Cabarrus County. And of the 28 that are coming from outside of Cabarrus, we had 4 that are just relocating from out of state, 4 that transitioned from outside the country through our Participate Learning program, and then the remainder from other LEAs within North Carolina. We've only got 2 first-year teachers, and so I'm excited I love working with new teachers, but when everything else is new, we were very intentional about trying to get an experienced staff, and that's what we've done. And so these 2 are mature beyond their years, but our veterans are very excited to support them in that work. The process has been great. I can't even count the number of interviews that we've conducted to make that happen, but it's resulted in a very, very strong staff, one that I'm excited for our students to get to work with. Dennis Hobbs mentioned the opportunity for us to be the feeder school, and I just want to thank his staff. Most people don't even know, but he's been the best landlord around. He hosted my administrative staff in one of his mobile units, and so all of our interviews were typically taking place there. So they were great to support us, and then since we couldn't have our students in the building during the summer, we didn't have our certificate of occupancy yet, he hosted our summer bridge program. And so his staff, I want to give a huge shout out again, just another great example of how this district just supports each other and whatever the need is. So thank you, Dennis. I'll turn in my keys soon. I also, just talking with my PTO, I just left an army of PTO volunteers at my school that were stuffing folders for open house. And to my PTO president, also someone that I share with Dennis, but she gave the example of, she said, the support that I'm getting and response from parents is like elementary PTO style. And so if you know what the difference in a elementary PTO versus a secondary, it's pretty drastic in terms of, everybody wants to help the cute little kids. It's when they get older and don't smell as good that for some reason people don't want to help them as much. But it's been great. And so I just want to say that the community is evolving. And again, I've left an army back there just tonight to do that. The other thing that I think is very indicative of the strong sense of community we're developing is the athletic program. So first I want to say again, huge thanks to our construction facilities folks. They did a lot of very proactive planning, and so that our fields are ready for athletes this fall. A lot of times you may see new construction, it still looks like the grass is very sparse and things like that, but they've done a great job of planning, so we're ready for football and softball to take place. We had 48 athletes show up, try out for football, and 43 cheerleaders tried out. A softball with a strong 14, but we've got enough, and so we're excited to have those sports. You always wonder, is the communication getting out to the community? Do the kids know about these opportunities as much as you try to flood on social media and send out messages? And so they did. They showed up, and we're excited for those programs to get going. Now, there have been some things that are, a little bit out of our control, when it comes to product availability and delivery timelines, those things that present challenges for a new school, but we have persevered through all of that. I don't know if you're aware that there's a helmet shortage in not just locally, but everywhere, and I just want to say that our middle schools in Cabarrus County came through, because we've got beautiful uniforms, but we were really concerned, what are we going to do? We have no helmets. We ordered them in December, and they weren't going to make it. But Brian Tyson sent out an email to our athletic directors in the community, and they all, as soon as they got their own kids outfitted, they were sending emails, I've got this many, I've got this many, and so I'm proud to report that today in my facility I have enough helmets for our kids to play football, and so that's exciting, but another example of how this district pulls together and really just supports one another. And it's, I'm always reminded, one of my favorite quotes is from Garrison Keillor, where it says that nothing you do for children is ever wasted, and so just time and time again I found in this experience of opening a new school, people are just willing to step up and help. And that's one of the things that I love about this district. So I will say my building is beautiful and my staff is great. Doesn't mean everything has been sunshine, rainbows, and roses, because there's a whole lot of late nights, a lot of early interviews, minor setbacks, again, as I mentioned, like the delayed orders of instructional resources and things, or random things like I mentioned earlier today, those migratory geese that are trying to find the pond that used to be where our parking lot is. And seriously, do you guys know what kind of a mess geese can leave? It is awful. But minor setback, we're figuring it out. And so, as a principal, I'm sure, no matter whether it's a new school or not, every opening, it's got details that don't go exactly as you plan, or processes that aren't as ready or as for strong implementation as you'd like. But the reality is, at Roberta Road, we've got furniture in every classroom that's ready for students to sit at and collaborate and learn. We've got devices for every student to put in their hands. We've got devices for every teacher. We've got technology and all the network, and all those things are working. So we are ready for learning to take place there. And so I just say that more than anything, we've got an excitement and a sense of purpose to begin our day living out the motto that my leadership team created, and that is to work hard, grow together, and change the world. So we're ready to get those things started, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to lead these folks to do just that. Stephen, it's your turn.
Good evening. Not sure what you got yourself into when you asked me to speak. You give a principal time to talk about his or her school. We're going to go on forever, so you might be here a while. But good evening.
Proceed.
I've noticed that. So good evening. I'm Stephen Bookhart, and I'm the proud principal at Harris Road Middle School. I'm starting my 6th term as principal. It is a school rooted in tradition and propelled by the pursuit and expectation of excellence. Many of our activities this year will be centered around our theme, Be Here, Be You, and Belong. I'd like to share with you a few of the highlights as we prepare for the 2022-2023 school year. The first of which, we are 100% fully staffed. That has been a chore, as Dr. Bullock mentioned, but we hired 10 certified staff members this year. Thank you to Dr. Williams back here for his help, and he's very instrumental. Our partnership with Participate Learning landed us a veteran 8th grade science teacher from Colombia, and we're excited about her and the other staff members joining our team. We are one of only 2 middle schools in North Carolina with the designation by DPI as a Global Ready School. These designations are for K-12 public schools districts that recognize significant focus and dedication to global education. We're in the 3rd year of our Merit Immersion program, and as Dr. Blessington said, our students presented at the RISE conference. And while we're mentioning the RISE conference, I will like to commend Dr. Withers and her team for an amazing conference. It was successful like no other in terms of quality and scope and scale. It was amazing. We've been busy scheduling. We have 1,220 students as of today. We'll have 1,235 when we open our door, because we have 15 sitting in scribbles that we're trying to get processed. So we're busy scheduling. We have over 220 kids sitting in Math 1. That's most of these high school principals don't have that many kids sitting in Math 1. We have 300 kids sitting in band and over 140 in chorus. We had so many kids in band, we had to hire a 2nd band teacher. And that's really a testament to those teachers and the success of MPAs and superior rankings they bring in year after year. We're busy planning for our extracurricular activities. 2 I'd like to highlight is our robotics program. It had over 50 students in it last year and sent 2 teams to the World Championships in Texas. We have a National Junior Beta Club, 191 students, over 1,900 community service hours last year alone. We're planning for our student events. As highlighted by Dr. Bullock, we have an amazing and supportive parental community and active PTSO who works diligently to meet the needs of our staff. Our wonderful PTSO, headed by our president, Ms. Danielle Menace, shout out to her, supports our various students incentive programs and performs a host of events throughout the year to encourage our teachers and celebrate our students. Currently, we're working on facilities. Thanks to Mr. Chuck Taylor and his team, we have a new addition being added onto our cafeteria that will help alleviate overcrowding within there. And he has promised me it will be ready day one. Right, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. And lastly, our teachers are busy planning. It's a lot of the groundwork that we lay through our PLCs at this time of year that gets us prepared for many of the strong academic results that we've become accustomed to. A couple of those highlights is last year alone, we had 66% of our students make either the A or AB honor roll. 2/3 of our students. And that's due to the students' hard work, but also the support given by our staff. One of the biggest feathers in our cap is every year since 2004. So that's every year since 2004, we have earned the high growth or exceeds expected growth status on end of grade tests. Now our streak was interrupted a little bit by COVID. We didn't take tests in 1920 and we didn't earn the designation the previous year because they didn't hand those out. And we have yet to receive any growth data this year, but we expect when we get that back, we'll be at least where we were in 18-19 when we were ranked 6th out of 2,500 schools in the state for growth. Finally, our proficiency on last year's tests indicated we were the highest we've been in the last 10 years. 83.4% of our students showed proficiency on their state tests. And many of the areas show that we are at or above where we were pre-pandemic, which shows we are recovering strongly from their learning loss due to the pandemic. And that is 100% a direct result of our amazing teachers, wonderful support staff who work hard every single day to deliver quality instruction to engage our students in a challenging learning environment. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rebecca Phillips. I'm the principal at Winkler Middle School, and I thank you so much for having me tonight. When we were asked to share how we are preparing for our school year, that's a hard question. And it's not a hard question because I don't know the answer. It's a hard question because I do know the answer. And I know the countless people and resources that have gone into preparing for our students for this school year. As our vision states at Winkler, we are a community committed to growing and learning together, and that's exactly what we've done and what we're doing for our students as we prepare for our next school year. I would like to just give you a small glimpse into what this preparation has looked like for us. I know as an administrator, my planning for this school year started last school year. And that has continued over the summer and with our staff and with our students and with our parents. One of my favorite days is the day after school gets out, and not because students are gone, but because I know that we are letting them fly and we are getting to prepare for a new school year for our next group of students to come in. We put sticky notes all over the walls. We do all of our planning, our to-dos, what are our wishes and our hopes for our new group of students coming in. And we make sure that we work through those and we assign those to everyone that would have any input into each one of those things. One of the biggest parts of my job going into this summer is making sure that we are looking for high quality teachers, that we are fully staffed, and I'm excited to say that we are fully staffed going into our school year with all of our instructional staff. We are still looking for a custodian, so that is our position that we are looking to hire. We get to plan new processes to share with staff, such as safety, academics, and building meaningful relationships with each other and with our students that are coming in. We get to meet with committees about safety, leadership, PLCs, and then really just working on professional development. Where do we want to see our teachers grow professionally in order to be the best that they can be for students coming into our school? We also have amazing teachers that have already started planning, not just last week, but throughout the summer for students that are coming in. They've attended trainings. They had an amazing time at RISE last week, just knowing that they are developing themselves professionally. Planning engaging activities, I've gotten tons of calls over the summer, and it always makes my heart so happy to hear all of their ideas that they're already starting to plan. And it usually starts with, I know it's not school time yet, but I have to tell you this. And just hearing that excitement in their voices. Our additional staff have worked really hard to register our students, schedule students into appropriate classes, host parent information sessions, update protocol and processes, organizing athletics, getting resources ready. Our custodians have been busy preparing our building and making sure that it is clean and updated and ready for our students and staff. But it doesn't stop there. So our parents have also been planning over the summer and working to make sure that they attend information sessions, asking questions about classes for their students, and really advocating for their children. Our amazing group of PTSO members have been working to plan multiple times over the summer to organize ways for celebrating students that are coming in and supporting our staff members. But I think the most important part of this, and I don't think that they know this, is the preparation that students are doing and how they are preparing us as educators for our new school year. So we hosted a 6th grade transition camp last week, and we had around 200 6th graders that attended. I don't know that they know just how much they helped us prepare in just being there and showing their excitement for the new school year. They are our why, and they light the fire for us as educators. We know that all of this work is worth it, and all of these groups are excited for the new year, and we will continue to work just as hard as we have over the summer throughout our year to make sure we have a great 22-23 school year. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tanya Williams. I'm the principal at Concord Middle School. So I'm going to sum up our middle school style, and I'm going to say it really with a song. We are ready. We are ready. We are ready for y'all. And we are ready. Our staff has worked extremely hard to make sure our facilities are ready. Our facility crew here we have brand new pavement. When you go down Gold Rush Drive, everything looks brand new down there. A new sign inside our building is nice and shiny. New paint all over the walls. The floors are ready. But what's more important than the facility, as everyone said, is we're ready for the kids. We're ready instructionally. We are fully staffed with our last position in process, almost done. That is a tremendous shout out to HR, and I know Michael in particular. I've worked with Michael a lot this summer, being creative and trying to make sure that we get the best high quality staff for our students, because our students deserve that. But we have done a lot of work these past couple weeks with our staff, our admin team, all preparing before they showed up to get ready and build plans, look vertically within our building to make sure instructionally we're solid, and that was a all-day professional development plan that our teachers led and our staff worked collectively, and it was probably the most powerful within the building that I've seen in 26 years in education. So it was great to see that collaboration among all of our staff, new and old, and all across from vertically all across the building. We are very excited, as everyone's mentioned. We have students that have been on campus this summer with our 6th grade transition camp in the early June or July. And then now we have athletics starting to come and hit the building, which is just exciting, just as much for high school as it is at middle school, with cheerleaders on campus, softball team practicing, and of course football getting ready to kick up. But again, we are ready. This is our year to reboot. Like I said, again, 26 years in, it's like the old Atari. You pull out the cartridge, you blow it off, you start over. We're back in. We're ready to start and have a real traditional year with students, family, everyone back together for our students to have a successful school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blessington, and to our middle school principals, thank you for sharing your beginning school year plans and all the work that you've put in over the last couple of months. I do appreciate it, so thank you for being here this evening. And last but certainly not least, a welcome first to Mrs. Johanna Parker, our new elementary assistant superintendent. Joanna comes to us from Dare County. She just began last week, and I told her the initiation here is you have to speak at a board meeting immediately. So, you know, she just represents all the excellence that you've seen this evening, and why she stands in front of you this evening. She didn't blink when I asked her to come here and present this evening, and so she stands before you to welcome the elementary principals. I know Chastity Dolan, Jessica Blanchard, Chris Smith, Adrian Perry, and am I forgetting one? And Megan Smith they're all here this evening to share their beginning plans this year. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Joanna Parker. And Joanna, welcome.
Thank you so much. First of all, good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, esteemed members of the board, and Dr. Kopicki. I've gotten to meet a few of you, and I'm looking forward to getting to meet everyone. As Dr. Kopicki said, I started a week ago today. My first meeting with everybody was preparing for RISE, and when I walked in, I was honestly just in awe of how much was about to happen in 2 days. It's amazing when you walk into a room and you don't know anyone. Because full transparency, I'm meeting everybody this week, and you know when everyone leaves that room, every single thing that they say is going to happen when they leave that space, and that is exactly what happened. RISE was just amazing, and such an amazing way to start. But anyways, I have been so impressed by all the school leaders that I've met so far. Ms. Sarah Reeves has been wonderful and taken me to 13 of the elementary schools so far. We hit the last 9 tomorrow. I've just been so impressed by everybody I've met. I'm so thankful to be here and support the team in Cabarrus County. All 21 traditional elementary schools are ready for student arrival on Monday, August 29th. And as you know, Wolf Meadows already started. And we are excited to welcome students and their families to open house on Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. And so I'm going to turn it over to the principals, the stars of the show. First is going to be Miss Megan Smith, the principal of Coltrane Webb Elementary, and then Jessica Blanchard, the principal of R. Brown McAllister Elementary, Adrian Perry, principal of Hickory Ridge Elementary, Chastity Dolan, principal of Weddington Hills Elementary, and Christopher Smith, principal of Pitt School Road Elementary. So Megan.
Thank you for having us this evening. I am Megan Smith, principal at Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School, and we welcomed back our staff last Tuesday morning, and it was an incredible meeting. We celebrated a lot at Coltrane Webb, and first and foremost, we celebrated how we ended last year. Our student performance data was at an all-time high, K-5, across all content areas. So we were really, really celebrating the achievements of our students and our teachers and all of their hard work. We also celebrated our teacher working conditions survey and our staff retention from last year to this year, something we're very, very proud of, and that we all are committed to as a school community, just really keep that positive cultural trajectory going into this school year so we can keep Coltrane Webb the best place to work and to learn. Last week we also did a lot of preparation for the RISE conference, which I know has been previously mentioned. We're a smaller school, about 3 to 4 teachers per grade level, and we had 16 teacher leaders present at the RISE conference. So we could not have been more proud of our teacher leaders really showcasing all that they know and sharing their knowledge with the entire school community. So not only did we come back from RISE having learned from our amazing peer educators, but we really came back empowered as a staff because we were again being able to be those teacher leaders across the district and teach too. So an incredible opportunity. Lastly, we renovated one of the oldest parts of our building, and if you know anything about our building, it is very old, almost 100 years old, some parts, literally. And we completely renovated alongside Mr. Nichols and our facilities team our makerspace. We are a STEM school, so makerspace is one of those places that the magic really happens regarding STEM instruction outside of the classroom. And this space still had original carpet, original wallpaper. I mean, it was a little sad, but from floor to ceiling, we really created that space to be a really powerful room for our students to be innovative and collaborative and just everything STEM. So we're just really excited to have students back in the building and start a wonderful school year.
Good evening. So I carried the banner proudly for Cabarrus County as a Cabarrus County alumni from Bethel Elementary, Jay and Freeze in Central Cabarrus, but now also as a parent of a middle schooler and a high schooler, in addition to being a principal. I'm super excited about all the things that are going on in Cabarrus County schools, and just a few things that kind of bring that out specifically. So some of my pride points started back last spring. As you know, R. Brown is going through a digging deep construction process. So there's dirt everywhere, but not in the community roads because they have tire washers even from the construction crew to get the dirt off. But we are in that building process, and that started with a community meeting back in the spring where we were able to share some of that exciting progress and planning, and I've been looped into that process and been able to meet with the design team and really talk about how to make the best use of the spaces. It's really exciting. If you want to see construction updates, they're posted on the R. Brown website because we're really proud of that. So we started some of that pride back in the spring with that piece. Then, as several people mentioned, we had some wonderful results with our assessment data that show that we're exceeding some of the work that was done pre-pandemic and some of the performance that was pre-pandemic. So I know as a parent and a principal, there's lots of concern about potential learning loss, but that's just proof that we've really been able to cover a lot of ground since we've been back. Then we finished out the year with graduation and a speech from the great Carla Black, who was so motivational because she was a former principal at R. Brown, and she talked about just what a special place R. Brown is. She later sung to us all at the RISE conference, so I'm sure you enjoyed that as well. But then we really moved right into Summer Leadership Conference, and I was able to talk to a colleague at the Cannonballer Games following some of the opening pieces at Summer Leadership Conference, and it was actually Ms. Reeves' husband, who was a colleague of mine when I was in CMS, and we were comparing notes for summer leadership, and I was able to say wholeheartedly it was the best summer leadership experience I've ever had. And that's saying a lot because I've been a principal now in 3 districts, Union County, CMS, and in Cabarrus. So great job, Dr. Protz, because you really motivated us. You even had people like Dr. Albrecht, Anna Blessington, and I doing skydiving. So, so much fun and so motivational, and that just kept going. So I was able to visit Irvin Elementary over the summer and the Read to Achieve camp that was going on there and the great things that were happening for students at that Read to Achieve. Then we had Summer Bridge Camp, and I'll just sum up our experience with Summer Bridge, which I could not say enough good about from a parent and a principal perspective, with something that one of our parents actually sent thanking us for Summer Bridge. She starts with, "Good afternoon. I want to share my gratitude to the R. Brown staff for the amazing summer camp my student is participating in. He looks forward to the camp every day and even tells me he hopes I'm stuck in traffic so I will pick him up late. He's been sharing what he's learned in Letterland and totally soaking up the experience. I 100% believe this experience will support his transition to kindergarten, and I feel I've made the right decision to have him attend the STEM program at R. Brown. I also want to share how much I appreciate the communication from R. Brown, the Dojo app that we joined back in May because we were able to have our parents in and joining that. I appreciate, as a future family, being included in the communication. I also really appreciate the teachers' updates for Summer Bridge Camp. I have been so impressed with R. Brown's staff, always so friendly. We have attended 2 of the public library events hosted by our media specialist, Mr. Smith, and have felt totally welcomed to the R. Brown family. I just wanted to pass an email of praise to the R. Brown team." So that, you can't speak more loudly than that when parents are saying that. They're carrying the banner before their child has ever started in your school. Then we kept going with transition camps. So again, I'm a parent of a middle schooler, a rising 6th grader, and a rising 9th grader. And so I was able to be a part of summer camps, transition camps for both of those, and saw the benefits that they were able to reap. At the school level, we've done a lot of wonderful things to start the year and to be ready. So our focus this year is dig in, because again, whether we like it or not, there's dirt. So we dig in and we dig deep. We began our study of Culturize because I was very motivated with that, and we started a book study even before the staff all got their book because we're excited about that work. We spent time focusing in our opening meeting on how we would be groundbreakers by championing all students, risk takers by expecting excellence, difference makers as merchants of hope, and Bobcat banner carriers through our STEM program. Our staff were engaged and excited with our spirit shovels that we created at opening staff meeting, and risk-taking resumes, and rooted relationships, and more. And to speak to that, one of our teacher assistants who may not have previously been as motivated or felt things applied. We did not spend a lot of time talking about the beginning of the year basics. We really spent time building culture, and so she sent me an email that evening, one of our teacher assistants, and said, I just wanted to text, I was just texting my friend telling her how much I enjoyed our opening breakfast meeting. So I thought I should tell you. I loved the presentation. I loved the idea of doing things like writing letters and home visits, connecting, building those relationships with students and families. So great! Exclamation point. I'm thankful. I look forward to the school year. Go Bobcats. That's from a teacher assistant. So you sometimes get that from teachers, but even to get that from a teacher assistant. We have continued to do work with things like rotations in small groups on P2, because our staff will be rolling that out this year, and PLC Plus, where we'll be planning and pacing out the year for instructional purposes. We also took time to shine bright for our students. We stole an idea from Dr. Kapicki and did a star show with pictures of all of our students, and our staff were like they were at concerts with their phones, shining lights on the students that they knew the names to, because that is a big push. Know the names, know their stories for our students at R. Brown. So we're very excited about all of those things that are going on at R. Brown. And then after that meeting, which was last Tuesday for us, we got to go to RISE. And today we had our school improvement team follow-up meeting, and we always start with sharing celebrations. Unprompted, these are some things that my staff, direct quotes that they said about RISE conference. RISE was amazing. I actually got stuff I could use. We were celebrated as professionals. It felt different, like we were in the corporate world. I felt respected. It was motivational, lots of energy. And they kept going. They said that they really felt like they were showcasing the talent in our system. And then specifically, some of our teachers attended a session with Dr. Bish and Dr. Williams, and they talked about how they really were motivated by the words that they shared about, yes, we do all love to feel the positives, but sometimes it's in the negatives or the challenges that we grow the most. And so they could not share enough about the positive things for RISE conference. So I felt like that was really important to share, specifically from teachers' words unprompted. Thanks.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I am Adrienne Perry. I'm the proud principal of Hickory Ridge Elementary School. So I have a lot to share with you in a brief moment of time, so I'll try to pull it together as quickly as I can. But we are gearing up for an amazing year at Hickory Ridge. We are growing. Our student population is growing. Our data manager just told me today that she's enrolled 236 students this summer alone, which is pretty incredible. Right now we sit at over 1,055 students. So we are working to ensure that we have everything ready to go for students when they walk through the door. This summer, we started out, I had 17 positions that we've hired for. They are all filled except for one teaching position, and then we're working on one exceptional children's position. So like other folks have said, we have worked really hard to ensure that we are hiring high-quality staff that meet those standards of excellence, because excellent is what we expect. Currently, let's see, so our Cabarrus County Maintenance Department has done amazing things. We have 8 mobile units out back that are truly phenomenal. They are beautiful, they are fully furnished, they are painted, the landscaping around it looks beautiful, waiting for our students to come in, so we're excited about that. We've partnered with our PTO last school year to fundraise, and they have built a brand new walking track in our field. So there's a walking track with a 12-bay playground ready for our kids, and that's just phase one of many phases to create a very large playground there in the center for an addition for our kids. We had a wonderful kindergarten transition camp. Students were able to acclimate themselves to the building. We had excellent feedback from families about the experience that the kids had at school with us. The very first year, this is the very first year, as you know, we opened up 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic. This is the very first year that our kindergarten camp, all kindergartners participated in that, got to come into the building and participate with all of our kindergarten teachers. And so that was a real joy to watch the families bring the kids in and then be excited about what's to happen. Last year, our VEX robotics team made it to state finals, and then we took a team to Worlds and the Nationals in Dallas, Texas, which was a lot of fun. Our school improvement team is busy planning many extracurricular activities for our families and kids to participate in. Some of the extracurricular that we're working on right now are after-school clubs, such as a tennis club. We are working on a chess club. We're working on our very own drum line for Hickory Ridge Elementary School, among other things. But those are just partnerships that we're working to increase the opportunities for our students. We've had an amazing opening to the school year. Our staff has participated in back-to-school trainings this past week and continues this week. The excitement has been just immeasurable. The very first day, we did some cardio desk drumming. So we at Hickory Ridge have sensory integration classrooms. There are 9 full classrooms that incorporate movement with learning. So we've been very intentional about modeling best practices for staff so that they can go and in turn provide those best practices for our students to engage in. Also, talking about academics and learning, we are sitting right now, have grown overall like 10 percentage points for our end of grade tests and looking at our K2 data. So we're really proud of the growth that's happening there. Again, as other folks have mentioned, the RISE conference, the feeling, the energy, it was immeasurable. I mean, the staff, they are just so geared up and ready to go, and I'm excited to see that continue on for their classrooms and their building and what they're going to provide for the kids. Our theme this year, just to kind of end it up, is Together We Shine, right? When you think about the galaxy and the stars shine brighter together. So that's the power of teamwork. So we are really looking forward to making sure that we are shining together with our community, with our parents, and with our kids. So thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Kopicki, and school board members. My name is Chastity Dolan, and I'm the principal of Weddington Hills Elementary IB World School. As we approach this upcoming school year, it is the commitment of Weddington Hills to provide a safe learning environment for all children while continuing to ensure they reach educational excellence. The teachers at Weddington Hills have been working very hard to prepare their classrooms for our students. But in addition, the teaching assistants, the clerical staff, the custodians, the school nutrition staff, they have all been busily making all necessary preparations to ensure our building and facilities are student ready. We look forward to open house on Thursday from 5 to 7. This past week, our staff has been provided the opportunity to participate in extensive professional development at both the county level with RISE and the school level with individual lessons and teaching in specific areas. All of this to help hone their craft and sharpen their excellence. At Weddington Hills Elementary, we ensure that all children have access to a world educational experience. Maximizing student achievement while supporting the social-emotional development of our students is our overarching goal. As we begin the upcoming school year, we are focused on living our excellence. As you can see, I'm carrying the banner today with my school shirt. We were named 2022 Magnet Schools of America School of Excellence, and so we're very proud of that, and we want to show that to our parents on open house. So if you're at Weddington Hills, you'll see us wearing our shirts. I also want to share that we are attracting excellence for 25 years. Weddington Hills has been open for 25 years, and I have been a part of that community for 20. So I have worked at Weddington Hills for 20 years as a third grade teacher, as a lead teacher, as an assistant principal instruction, and now as the principal of the school. So my heart is there. They say once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat, so I'm carrying the banner for that tonight as well. The teachers and staff at Weddington Hills are looking forward to a wonderful year of learning together. Our school team came together last week for our first annual Weddington Hills picnic at Franklin Park. It was a wonderful time of connecting and bonding with one another, and we look forward to creating that family bond with our students and our families. We are prepared and ready to begin the 2022-2023 school year. We'll see you on August 29th.
Good evening. I have the privilege of being here tonight and also closing us up. And I do want to say I'm Christopher Smith. I'm the proud principal at Pitt School Road Elementary, where I have served for going into my 7th year. 2 words have continued to resonate tonight with me, and I hope with you too, and that is ready and excited. And truly, that sums up, I think, a lot of what we're about here, not only in elementary, but also middle, high, and as a county as a whole. I would definitely applaud Dr. Kopicki, because I think one thing, he does many things well. One thing that he does well is he continually builds that culture of K-12 excellence, not just focused in a certain area or a certain school level, but across our county for all our kids and all our schools. That's the message that you've heard tonight. I know personally at Pitt School Road, we have that same feeling. I think even more so, we've mentioned parents and community. We have been so excited. One of our strong community partners, West Cabarrus Church, hosted a back-to-school block party on Saturday and kind of did it impromptu, and we kind of threw it together pretty quick. We still had over 200 families, gave out over 320 back-to-school bags, and had tons of laughs, smiles, and connections, especially with some of our new families. Our PTO is stronger now than ever. They greeted our staff back with red carpet treatment of a donut truck and iced coffee and gift bags, t-shirts, gift prizes, and drawings for everybody. It was truly an exciting time. And then also our kindergarten camp this summer, we truly had to kick students out and families out of the building after our ice cream party so our custodians could clean before they ran into overtime. They were just that excited to be in the building, talk and connect with staff, with myself, and just be a part of what we're doing. And so that excitement extends not just with our current staff, our teachers, but also out into our community. And I truly feel that there are many in our community that would say Pitt School Road, Weddington Hills, Northwest Cabarrus High, all our schools are excited and ready to receive children. And I promise you, while there might be a lot going on behind the scenes, when our kids show up, they'll get nothing but our best. They will get excellence from us at Pitt School Road and all our schools. Thank you.
Board members, do you want to keep moving through, or do you have any comments or questions for the different levels of anybody? Okay. One question?
No, we can keep moving. I just want to make sure we have an opportunity.
Okay, great.
All right.
Next, we're going to hear from Mr. Tyson, our District Athletic Director, to update us on the athletics as we begin the school year. Mr. Tyson?
Now for the good stuff, right? We are through with summer workouts for sure, and fall sports are up and running, wide open. Our high school started practice on August the 1st for football, volleyball, men's soccer, women's tennis, cross country, women's golf, and cheerleading. That served about 1,700 high school athletes. So quite a few athletes are involved in fall sports this year. Our first contest was last week, and as Mr. Palmer mentioned already, it was highlighted by the dedication of the Mount Pleasant Turf Field, and that was really exciting for that community. The community was ecstatic. It's also great to see former coach Larry Honeycutt's wife, Betty Honeycutt, known as Mama Betty down there, to do the coin flip. I think she really appreciated that, and we appreciated getting to see her do that as well. So great night and all for that community. Just updates, their rubber track is going to be, actually started installation today of doing that. Concord High School turf update, the gravel is spread out throughout the whole field now. They're
paving the D zone tomorrow, and on Wednesday you'll actually see some turf go down. So they are on track to have their turf field completed for their second contest, and we kind of lucked out there because they have 2 away games in an open date week, and then on September the 16th we will do the dedication for that field. So board members, you'll get an invite to that as well. So we appreciate all that you have done there in supporting those 2 schools in their venture of getting the turf field and rubberized tracks. And we had a highlight also, as Dr. A mentioned, Concord High School had a neat deal this past Friday night of going to Webb Field for the first game since 1966. I got over there about the start of the 4th quarter. That was neat, and we really just appreciate Concord Parks and Rec for working with us and pulling that off. AD Greg Little and his staff did a great job of organizing everything as well, and our maintenance department hauled in 2 extra sets of big bleachers over there and they were pretty full too. So it was a good night over there. So it was a good experience as well. But I know they're looking forward to getting their new turf field ready for September the 16th. A couple other updates. Our gym floors have all been refinished this summer at all our high schools and middle schools, so that's exciting for our volleyball and basketball teams. Our tennis court renovation took place at Mount Pleasant High School this summer, so it is up and running and looks great. We also have some other projects that we have to take care of as well as far as tennis courts goes at some of the other schools. All of our high school and middle school football coaches have been certified in the NFHS tackling course, and our district does that annually to make sure that our kids are staying as safe as they can in that sport. And to touch on what Christy Bullock said about the football helmet shortage, we are in pretty good shape there. We took care of our community first. We had schools from other districts calling us left and right wanting to borrow helmets from us, but we had to make sure that we took care of our kids first. And our schools have been phenomenal in doing that and taking care of each other. So we appreciate that. Our middle school started practice last Monday, and their first contest is next Wednesday. And that serves about 900 student athletes across our county. So they are in full swing as well in football and softball and cheerleading. Our athletic directors have had a full summer also, and we have a new platform for a website platform, so they had to get accustomed to that. But it is user friendly, and I think our community will appreciate that as well. They've also had to get used to a new registration platform and what the High School Athletic Association is using now with Dragonfly. So that's been quite of a learning curve there, and some of them have been more receptive to that than others, but that's gone relatively well also. I'd also like to piggyback on thanking Major McGee and Deputy Elwood for helping us secure officers for our games. Last year we had quite an ordeal of trying to get enough officers. There was a shortage and we had some issues, and as I speak, all these slots for the varsity football games on Friday nights have been filled. So we're very appreciative of that and creating a safe environment for our Friday night football games. Highlighted games this week for the community to know about is we have 3 really great games in the area. We have Charlotte Catholic coming to Hickory Ridge on Friday night. That'll be one of the better football games this year. Both of those teams are really, really good and well coached. We have Cox Mill at Northwest Cabarrus for the Cottle Creek Cup bragging rights, so that'll be a great game. And we also have rivals Central Cabarrus at J.M. Robinson. So if the community wants to check out any of those 3 games that'll be in town this week, then we would love to see them at the ball games. And that's pretty much a wrap for what I have for tonight. Any questions?
Board members?
This may not be relevant to a lot of people, but I just want to see if you can answer. Are we going to continue to use that ticket spigot deal? It bothers me. I just wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am. That's been a topic of conversation. A lot of districts have gone to that. Even the High School Athletic Association has gone to that as well for their state championships and all. and it's just a lot easier for our treasurers at our schools and for our ADs. And I know it's taken a little bit of a learning curve for the community, but it has been pretty positive. I hadn't really had a lot of complaints come my way, and maybe some of y'all have, but we have put some things in place to assist with that. We do have card readers in place this year for anybody that doesn't have the phone that wants to do the ticket spigot. They will have credit card readers as well, which also our CCS employees get in free with their pass. Coaches get in free with their pass. And one thing I would like to say to our older community that is listening tonight, 62 age or higher, we do have the senior citizen gold card. And how do you get that? You come to the county office, to the front lobby area here, and see Kim Davis, and it's $5 for a photo ID. You bring your identification. You just have to live in our attendance zone, and that gets you into any contest free. Not tournaments and playoff games, but it gets you into any regular season contest for free. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that is one thing our principals and our athletic directors and all are pretty high on.
It did. We just stood in line for a long time with that. I guess for somebody to have to look at you got to click it, and then it got to do whatever it's going to do, and it takes probably a good minute for the person that's looking for that paid on there to see it, and it just holds up the line, and then it charges me $1 and some change extra. I could use that in my pocket.
I understand. It does take a while too to get in with us wanding and going through the metal detectors, but that's something that we want to do to make our games safer as well. So we want to continue to do that as well.
What is the cost for the events now? What is the cost for the events for the public?
The conference sets the prices for different games. Our 4A conference is $8 a game for the football, and the other two conferences, our 2A and 3A conference, is $7.
And using this thing, it's a service charge on top of that?
Yes, 90 cents.
It's about 70 cents for tickets.
I think it's about 90 cents there, Coach Tyson.
Okay. Whatever you say, Mr. Furr. Anything else?
You're not alone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Next, Mr. Ben Aldridge is going to give us an update on our technology. Mr. Allred.
I'm going to go ahead and admit something that I've wanted to do for years. Art Whitaker gets to stand up here every time he talks about data, and he always has mileage or tire pressure. So I get data for the first time. So I'm going to start with data just because it's exciting to me. So we use a ticketing system to make sure things get done. Parts get ordered, email gets, passwords get changed. So we did 36,303 tickets were submitted last year from July 1 through June 30, and we closed 99.3% of those tickets by the end of June 30, which is pretty amazing. It takes about 1.5 days on average for us to respond, and about 3.5 days to close a ticket. And that's our technology department that works internally. That's technicians and instructional technology facilitators, some folks in other departments, our engineers, digital learning coordinators, etc. So that's pretty exciting to have nice little charts and graphs that show tickets. But the tickets and those numbers support students and staff on the other end. We have a hair over 35,000 kids this year. We have the second largest staff in Cabarrus County, about 4,500 staff. We have a board, and we have lots of devices. We have as many devices as kids, plus some extras, because I heard some people talking about middle school students. Sometimes they can be hard on things. K-12 can be hard on things, and quite honestly, staff can be hard on things too. So we have phones, we have computers, we have Chromebooks, we have TVs, and the list goes on and on and on. And we have people that work on those. We have 18 full-time break-fix technicians. Those are shared between our 40 schools now and 44 sites. We also have instructional technology facilitators. In almost all of our schools, we have 40. They're split between some of our smaller schools and media specialists that we support across all of those departments. Most importantly right now is we are working with HR. So I asked today, how often do we work with HR this time of year? 5 times a day, we do back and forth automated sharing. So we can make sure that new staff get an email, get a computer, get access to the systems that they need so that we're ready to open school next week. So I know my folks work closely with Dr. Williams, Dr. Bish, and their staffs. Let's see, what else we want to talk about. The schools that have opened this year, Roberta Road Middle, Cabarrus Health Sciences Institute. We've also worked with mobile units. The new early college, or the early college, has a new building structure. We have to put in equipment for all of those. So TVs, intercom systems, paging systems, access points, routers, switches, all of those little parts that have fans that get real hot and make sure that we can today broadcast to our community and then we can check email and that teachers can teach our kids. More than anything right now, our most important thing is to make sure that our students and staff have the technology they need to do their jobs. And that's why, that's my update for you guys tonight. Questions?
Board members, any comments or questions regarding the principals? I think Dr. Kopicki would like to let them leave if possible. Is there anything that you had for them specifically? Nothing? Hearing none? Okay.
So just real quick before you all leave, I want to thank you for coming out this evening. And I just want to reiterate to the board and the community, this is a sample size of the excellence that exists in our Cabarrus County schools. You know, I get to work with all these folks on a daily basis. You don't really get to see them as much. They're the quiet stars behind the scenes to make us all look good. Any success that I have is directly attributed to the hard work that they do, and I appreciate it immensely. So I appreciate you being here this evening and for sharing with us some of the highlights of your school year, and I appreciate your leadership. I wish you a very safe, healthy, and great school year. I have full confidence and nothing but faith and trust in all that you do on a daily basis helping our kids. One thing I will say that I am confident in 100% across the board, and I think you so eloquently expressed it this evening, you don't even realize it, but what comes out is your passion and love for kids, and that is deeply appreciated, and that's what makes this place special. You genuinely care for every child that you're working with, and you just share that so easily in your conversation this evening. I'm just struck by a lot of things that you do. I see it on a daily basis, and I appreciate immensely your leadership. So thank you for being here this evening. Now get out of here and get with your families. And next, if I would ask Ms. Sarah Reese to speak for the curriculum instruction updates, our Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I appreciate you all allowing us to share some updates today. So I will be really brief, but we are offering over 475 different sessions for our teachers in the next 2 weeks. We have another CAP Workday coming up tomorrow in which teachers will be engaging in Letterland professional development, professional learning community professional development, as well as many of our beginning teachers are gaining content area understanding around the different content areas they support. I'd be remiss not to mention RISE. I know you've heard that a lot, but I certainly believe that the mentality of it takes a village to raise a child really came forth in that our professional development model is really to tap into the excellence of the phenomenal educators as well as stakeholders that we have in this community. I think one of the things that you may not know is that we didn't just have CCS educators presenting. We had folks from the private sector. We had EverFi. We had Junior Achievement come share the amazing resources that they have to be able to help our teachers understand all the incredible support that they have, but also the world-class professional development that is really homegrown right here in this community. And so as we continue to build teacher efficacy through our professional development, we will be here supporting them through curriculum and instruction. Are there any questions?
Board members, comments or questions? Ms. Carpenter?
Well, this may be answered later because I want to basically know how many brand spanking new teachers we had. Are you going to answer all this later? Okay, never mind.
Thank you, Ms. Reeves.
Thank you, Mrs. Reeves. Next, I would ask Angela Fitzwater to speak this evening to the board and give us an update on the EC department. Mrs. Fitzwater?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about some of the great things that we have going on in the EC department in our district. So I checked this morning in the DPI database just to see roughly how many students we have with EC right now, and it came up with 4,154. That's going to be a give or take number because there could be students who haven't dropped off of our enrollment yet, but there's also a lot of out-of-state transfers that are coming in which do not populate in our state database. So right now we're looking at 4,154, could give or take on that end. So that's very exciting for us. With the growth in our district comes the opening of new programs and new opportunities for our students with disabilities. So this year we're going to be opening 2 elementary structured learning programs at A.T. Allen and at Hickory Ridge Elementary. We're also going to be opening 1 LC program at Pitt School Road Elementary. And this is really just something unique to Cabarrus County that I'm very proud of in working here, is that we can offer such specialized programs to our students. There are surrounding districts, parents, and different groups that actually try to move into our district just because of the quality of our programming that we have. And for middle school, we have our Abilities and Possibilities program for middle school is moving into the new Roberta Road building, which is very exciting for us to have a new space there. We are opening the transition program, which is a personal victory for me because I've advocated for many years for this program for our special education students. We'll have 2 classrooms at J.M. Robinson and 1 at West Cabarrus High School. And Mr. Hobbs spoke about this earlier today because he's also as excited as I am about that. This is going to be for students who have completed the 12th grade, but because they are eligible for special education services, they have the right to continue. So students in that program will be able to work on vocational and independent living skills. We've received many donations from the Knights of Columbus, Lamb Foundation, community donations to kind of grow this program because it's going to look much like a real life setting, whether it's working on job skills within there in an assembly line type setting, or if it's going to just be working on household kind of items of just taking care of your kitchen or your living needs. We're really going to work on those specific skills. We're also partnering with local businesses. As students develop job skills, we're going to be able to put them into real life situations in local jobs with those partnerships that we've built. So many exciting things going for our children with disabilities. I also want to mention that Mary Frances Wall, Cabarrus County has received a recipient of the Childcare Stabilization Grant, which is actually going to help with our recruitment and retention of early childhood teachers, and that includes our EC certified staff for those ages as well. Our department's been really busy with these 2 weeks of planning time that we have with our teachers. We're taking advantage of that by making sure that we're providing a lot of quality time with our teachers and training. We participated in new teacher training. We had the opportunity to not only train EC teachers, but also to train general education teachers, which was a great time for us to get in front of that audience to talk about the importance of collaboration and supporting our families and our students. We did a lot with co-teaching at that time. We also worked with our adapted curriculum teachers, which I want to brag for a minute that all 3 of the ones that came this year are children who went through Cabarrus County schools and are coming back to give to our community, so that really says a lot about the quality of education in our community, I think. And then we also had elementary and secondary EC teachers who went through a process talking about compliance, behavior, and just overall flexibility in an EC classroom during new teacher training. We've had baseline training for our EC teachers who teach general curriculum that is going through training using research-based methods for reading and for math to help increase our proficiency scores. We're in the 3rd year of rotation of those materials. We also participated in RISE conference. We had executive functioning sessions that were full sessions overflowing with teachers interested. We offered Autism 101. We offered developmentally appropriate practices for preschool and kinder by some of our Mary Frances Wall staff. We had a speech therapist who did an excellent session on enriching language development through song. And then we provided support for function-based decisions to support behaviors. And then several of our EC teachers also presented poster sessions during that time. One of the great things about that day were we had coffee carts set up where some of our very own OCS students and living and learning students were able to provide coffee to the teachers for the day. Great opportunity for us to practice our job skills as well as our communication skills. We had community partnership with Amazing Grace Advocacy and their Life Skills Summer Camp. They actually brought some of their students in to practice their skills that they've been working on as well. Tomorrow, we're going to host the EC opening session, which is entitled Back to Our Roots. I'm very happy because this will be my first opportunity to work and support at that level with everyone. We chose to do Back to Our Roots just because we really want to get back to our why of why we wanted to be special educators and just carry out that theme throughout the year. We have a lot of the trials that COVID brought us behind us, so we're ready to move forward and get back to our roots, which is supporting our students the best way that we can. So tomorrow we're going to have a full day of training with all of our EC certified teachers. We've invited some community providers, whether they're giving out different raffle items or providing information on sessions as well. We invited an advocacy group to present on the North Carolina Innovations waivers because there's a current waiting list for 10 years, so it's important that we as teachers have that information to provide to parents as we support them in the IEP process. We also have sessions on ECATs and compliance-based items, as well as specific learning disability, progress monitoring, seclusion, restraint, executive functioning, and then our OCS PLC will take place at that time also. So we're really excited to provide all those opportunities. And I also want to mention that we have been working very, very hard, very diligently for the last 3 weeks on staffing. And we have worked really closely with HR. I know on the website there's a lot of positions posted there, but in looking through that list with HR, we have a large majority of those covered because we have really worked in making sure that we find ways that we can provide specially designed instruction to our students, but also manage the caseload and the paperwork responsibilities and make sure that our teachers are provided incentives for any time that they have to take on any kind of additional responsibilities with that. We're also piloting an IEP writers program this first semester just to see we're getting some retired EC teachers to help us some of the paperwork responsibilities to ease a little bit off of our EC teachers in some of our school settings. So we're going to pilot that program, see where it goes, and what we may be able to build out of that opportunity as well. We're going to continue to brainstorm ideas and ways to keep support for our teachers within that as well. The 10th day of school, we'll look at enrollment, see where we are, and then if we need to make any adjustments to staffing, we will certainly take care of that at that time as well. So, are there any questions for me?
Board members, comments or questions?
I'm sorry, I have questions. I love EC, and I just truly hear that you feel supported. I do hear a lot of times too about that there just not being enough EC teachers or EC support staff, and do I hear you saying we understand that that's happening, we're working towards fulfilling those positions, and then for the people who are in the EC department, what I want to understand is how we are supporting them and retaining those folks so that we aren't losing more people.
Absolutely. I mean, we're on the same page with that. We want the exact same things. So we have a structure within our department where we have coordinators and coaches who are assigned specific schools. So our schools know who their main contact is. Should they have any questions or need to problem solve anything, that's their main contact to go to through that avenue. As we are kind of problem solving based on school needs, because everybody's needs look different because every student's needs are different, right? So it really has to take into account the factors within that classroom and the resources available within that school to help us in problem solving that. We are thinking outside of the box. There are situations where we've already provided additional ECTAs to help with some of the responsibilities in the building. Like I said, the IEP writers is part of the brainstorming that we did on that because we know that just the paperwork is a big burden for many of our teachers. If we can lessen that, there's a lot of information that comes into special educators that have to be inputted into there. If we could take that load off of them and allow them more time in the classroom to provide specially designed instruction, that's the most important thing, is to make sure our students are getting that direct service. So we're definitely open to ideas. We're thinking of our own ideas. We're going to make sure that as we meet with PLCs, the people in my department who are the coordinators and coaches attend weekly PLCs at all of our schools. That's going to be the platform where we can have open discussion and problem solve and brainstorm through those items together.
With this being one of the higher needs as it relates to EC staff as a whole, are there any incentives that we're doing? I heard you say something about a grant. Can you tell me if that'll help with incentivizing people to apply for EC teachers or EC staff?
So with that particular grant, that's in the early stages, and that's for preschool. There are incentives that we're looking at for K-12 as well. So An example, in our programs where you might have 2 centralized programs in a school building, if at this time we're unable to find a candidate for the second, because there is a real shortage of teachers, we're aware of that. If we're unable to find a candidate, then we offer incentives to the one teacher who could manage, within the limits of DPI's regulations, can manage the caseload of that. But then we provide them incentives monetarily to motivate them to take on those responsibilities. But that's where we look at what can we take off of their plate, where we're providing that IEP writer for.
Last question, can you clarify what LC is?
Yes, so LC is the Learning Connections program.
Thank you. I may have more questions. If I do, I just email them.
Absolutely.
Any other board members' comments or questions? Thank you, Angela.
Thank you all.
Oh, Ms. Blackwell?
Well, I can ask,
Rob,
I guess.
I'm sorry.
So I'll let him go first.
Yeah, with 4,154 EC students, that's an awful lot of families involved. What are we doing for outreach to families to helping them navigate the IEP process, or just advocating for their child?
Right. So this summer we took part in the training with ECAC to help building some of our skills within, and we're looking at kind of dispersing some of those things that we learned through that summer training as well as like guidance DPI gives us through the PLC format. That's why it's so important that we have those weekly or monthly PLCs to get information out like that. We're also looking at this year, I want to build some stronger partnerships with people in the community. We have some great advocacy groups in our area that I feel like we could definitely tap into more. So I definitely encourage our department to reach out anytime that we can collaborate with them, because I think the best way for us to understand parent needs is to build that relationship. A lot of times our parents go to advocacy groups first. So if we partner with those advocacy groups, it's only going to help bridge and make our relationship stronger with the parents.
So first of all, thank you for all of this. This is incredible. I definitely wanted to ask you about, I know one of the things that we had, or that parents had mentioned to me last year, was making sure that the IEPs were completed on time. So I know that that is definitely something that we're working on, and of course having writers to do all of that paperwork. But I also know that the IEPs can only be completed by certain people who are trained to be able to do that. So I guess my question is, what are we doing to make sure that that is going to be provided for parents moving into this year, making sure those are done on time?
So those weekly or monthly PLCs that I mentioned, that is a time that every school has a set agenda for items that they cover on a weekly basis. Within that, teachers list out the due dates for their paperwork, whether it be the IEPs or reevaluations. And that way, as a team, everybody's held accountable, like, oh, September's coming. These are the meetings that are due in September. Where are we with scheduling those? Because we also have administrators at PLC, so we have a good amount of the team there that we can go ahead and start planning those. When I say we have vacancies, it doesn't mean that we have a ton within a school, right? We still have staff that if we have a vacancy and we need to cover a meeting, we have others within the building that can step up to help us cover some of that as well. And then we have 2 compliance managers in the EC department that are like our help desk line. So they're always available to take calls, email, get on Teams to help people through the paperwork process also.
Thank you again so much for your presentation.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. So a lot of the difficulty with parents, being able to understand the process and having to go to those advocacy groups that you mentioned earlier is just not understanding the process. And to not put more burden, and I'm saying burden for lack of a better term, on that EC teacher who's already got this whole host of things that they're responsible for parents who don't want to go to that advocacy group first and want to understand the process from within, who do they go to? Where do they send a message to? Who can help them to advocate for their student?
Right. So the EC case manager would be the first point of contact, because that's the person who's going to be most knowledgeable of the student. I also want to mention that we have a parent advisory committee within the EC department that I really want us to strengthen and build, because I think that we could use our own parents within the district with students with disabilities to help provide that exact thing that you're talking about, like the education to other parents. It's one thing when an educator talks to a parent. It's a whole nother thing when you have a parent-to-parent conversation on that.
Thank you. I hope to hear more from you going forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Angela. I appreciate it. Next, we'll hear from John LeGrand, who's going to cover facilities and transportation.
All right, good evening, board. Just to give you a quick overview on the auxiliary services front, we're currently completing final preparations in each of our Cabarrus County schools to receive students on the first day of school. Our custodial teams have been hard at work over the summer, stripping and waxing floors, moving furniture, cleaning, doing whatever is necessary to make sure that our buildings are ready on day one. Meanwhile, our maintenance team has worked at each school to ensure that necessary repairs and maintenance are completed and buildings are in tip-top shape for our students. Many thanks to all of our custodians and maintenance workers for their hard work over the summer months to get us to this point. On the new construction front, as you heard Principal Bullock say earlier, our brand new Roberta Road Middle School held its dedication ceremony today and is ready and awaiting our students on Monday morning. I'm so excited for that, to see that come to fruition. And we're excited to see the great teaching and learning that's going to take place on that campus here in our newest facility in the coming weeks. A big thank you to Tim Lauder and Brian Cohn for their keen oversight and their completion of this outstanding project. On the safety front, safety remains our top priority, and this summer, security vestibules were added at Northwest Cabarrus Middle School, J.M. Robinson High School, and Hickory Ridge High School, and are scheduled to be ready for the opening of school. As far as transportation really hadn't stopped all summer. In June, they were providing transportation for Summer Bridge and reading camps, and then in July, they were running Wolf Meadow routes. And just recently, here in August, they started early college routes. But we're ready to get in full swing on Monday with all of our CCS schools. And at this point, all routes have been finalized and sent to the schools. Our buses and vans are in great shape thanks to our fantastic mechanics and technicians and all the work that they did this summer. We've got a back-to-school meeting this coming up Wednesday, and you're going to see a lot of buses out on the road on Thursday because we're going to be doing a dry run. So, no, we're not in school yet, but yes, there's a bunch of buses out there, and that's for practice so that we're ready Monday morning. I'm very proud to say that our McKinney-Vento and Exceptional Children's bus routes are fully staffed with drivers, and we continue to hire for these regular ed drivers, or for the regular ed yellow bus drivers, and we still face a challenging labor market on that front as we continue to hire in this post-COVID environment, but we're still chipping away. As I have the mic right now, anyone interested in being a bus driver, we would love to have you on our team. We have some openings that are ready for you right now.
Still offering the bonuses?
What's that?
Do they still offer the bonuses?
We still offer bonuses and $16 per hour. So bring in your resume to the auxiliaries building, 111 Union Cemetery Road, and we will get you squared away. The transportation team has worked diligently to communicate with schools regarding any issues that may pop up leading up to the first day of school. And so we are ready to go in transportation. S&P, with free lunch and breakfast coming to an end, unfortunately, last school year. And as we have discussed previously, our S&P has a big emphasis on advertising free and reduced lunch applications. Just wanted to give you an update on that. Paper free and reduced lunch forms will go out to each student on the first day of school. So every one of them will get a piece of paper that says, here's how you apply for a free and reduced lunch. We printed them out. We put a lot of effort into that, Stephanie Almond and her team, to make sure that that's going to go home with our students. To this point, we have a head start. I'm pleased to announce over 13,000 applications have been processed, which is approximately 38% of our student population. So we want to get all the rest of the 62% in, and we're going to do everything we can on that, but we're out off and running with 38%. In a previous board meeting, we got the approval for some serving lines, and I just wanted to give you an update on that. Serving lines were recently installed at Weinkauf and Irvin, and Central Cabarrus High School and Wolf Meadow will be installed in the near future. And finally, Kids Plus is up and running. They have provided childcare for our staff as they have returned to school for staff development days and work days, and they're going to be ready for before and after school care to open at each elementary school and before school care at Winkler and J.M. Freeze starting Monday. So that is all there is. That is the brief report from Auxiliary Services. And if you have any questions, I will entertain those at this time.
Board members? Okay, Ms. Carpenter.
Just real quick, and you may not be able to give me much detail. What has the fuel prices? I mean, has it stabilized any, or what's the fuel prices done to you?
Fuel prices have declined since last year. However, they are still higher than they were this time last year. We're looking at, instead of north of $5 a gallon, we're around $4, and it has stabilized at that point. So even though it is lower, it is still very high.
So we're needing to use some money, or are we?
Obviously we're spending more money on fuel than we have in the past. The state has given a small amount of money to all school districts to kind of offset this cost, but it does not offset the total cost.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got a significant amount of folks that we need in transportation. That's correct. That's a fact. And I know you answered Rob's question about bonuses, but the folks that are in there and that are kind of holding the load, if you will, how are we supporting those folks? Because I'm just guessing, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if we have 100 and some odd people that we need to drive the buses, and we've got all of these kids that still got to go to school, they got to get there somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that the folks that are currently working and driving the buses are the folks that are, filling the gap for us. So how are we supporting those folks?
Well, that is a good question. We are very grateful for their work, and that is even more reason why we're trying to hire more help to get them the help that they need so that they don't have to do the double runs that you're referencing. Starting off at the beginning of the school years, we are going to have some double runs because we've got X amount of routes and fewer drivers than we have routes. So that's going to lead to some delays, especially until we get everything sorted out in the first couple weeks of school. I just want everyone to understand that, and parents to understand that as well. But to answer your question, the bus drivers that have been with us did get a raise based on the 4% that every student or that every classified employee got leading up to this, and some of them got an even bigger bump because last year our minimum rate was $14.89 and we raised it up to $16 halfway through the year. So even though we're not paying them near what they're worth, we're trying to continue to raise their compensation to entice them to stay with us and to remain on our payroll.
Sure.
So to kind of just piggyback off of that conversation or that question, so delays. How are parents going to be made aware, like just for example, the routes that are going to have double routes, their kids are going to be standing at the bus stop. If there's delays because of those, how are they going to be notified of the times that the buses are actually going to be there to pick them up? And then also, how is that notification going to go to the schools for teachers who might have already started classes that maybe the school bus is going to be running a little bit behind to get their kids dropped off?
Yeah, the transportation department communicates directly with the school. The school is then capable of communicating with parents through Connect Ed messages and other means of communication, emails, etc. Again, this is something that we wish we didn't have to fight. And again, if we had enough bus drivers to get on every route, then this wouldn't be an issue. Unfortunately, we still face, vacancies. We're right around 40 vacancies going into the new school year. So That's just to give you an idea. The timeliness of the communication is something that we strive to work with the schools so that they can get that word out to the parents.
Yeah, and I definitely just want to bring light to that, because as a parent who has children that do ride the bus, I think sometimes the frustration as a parent is that we'll get an automated message that say that your kid was tardy for class, whatever the case may be, and we didn't really know that the bus was late. And you know, a lot of the parents are already gone to work by the time their kids are waiting for the bus. So I definitely just want to make sure that we're cognizant of that, like as a system, that we're making sure that the parents are aware if there's going to be any delays, and that also that the teachers are aware, so that they're not marking their kids absent or missing a class. Because I don't know about you, but as a parent, when I get that call, I immediately freak out, because I'm like, oh my gosh, why is my kid not in class? So I just want to make sure that we're doing our best to make sure that the data for that is being given to those parents and the school system or the teachers as quickly as possible.
Excuse me, absolutely. And as the weeks or as the days go on, at the initial days, and routes are able to be consolidated, and as efficient, we're able to get more efficient with our routes, and possibly combining bus loads on similar routes, then those waits should get a lot shorter and a lot more infrequent.
Thank you.
Mr. LeGrand, I was wondering too, will you keep us informed of the cost of food? Because we've heard that the prices are going to continue to increase, so that we can maintain the food as far as for the kids in the cafeterias. If there's a big increase, will you let us know that, just so we can do something about that?
Sure, we'd be happy to give you an update as we get into the school year. We'll bring forward an update for you.
Thank you.
Just for board members, tonight after this, we'll get an update the very first work session in September. So everything will be updated, and then we'll have that for our work session. So they will be back in X amount of days. So we will get that for the work session, just so you know.
One more question. I'm
Sure,
sorry.
sure.
I'm sorry, honey. So in relation to so we were talking about, okay, we're going to have delayed bus schedules or bus rides or whatever have you. What is that magic number of staff that we actually need so that we can be on time to school? We won't have to put our, bus drivers through these double routes. What is that magic number? Do we know?
Right now we're about 40 down. Of course, everyone that we hire makes this problem just a little better. Now, I want to say this, some will not experience any double runs, and some schools will have less double runs than others. It's just based on which ones have which particular routes are being run, and whether your child happens to be on that route is whether they'll be on a double run or not. But if we could get 20 more, this becomes a lot more doable. And 40 would make it ideal, fantastic. We're running at full strength. 20 is, we're in good shape at that point.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we're going to hear from Mrs. Amy Jewell on some of the student services programs that she's leading. Mrs. Jewell.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us. And I just want to echo everybody. I know our principals are not here anymore, but the energy going into this year is amazing and much needed. Like when I walked into Rise, I said, this is the thing we didn't know that we needed. So, I just want to thank you for your support, and obviously just getting behind, rallying for our teachers. So just a few updates from me as far as services going into the year. We will have 32 social workers, which is very exciting, working with our counselors and psychologists. I just made my recommendation for our last 2 vacancies, so I think we should be fully staffed, which is fantastic. We also have currently 17 community providers, mental health providers, that are going to partner with us to come in with parent permission, of course, to provide school-based mental health services. And I'm actually hoping that number will grow. So that's fantastic. It's grown every year. So having 17 different mental health agencies willing to partner with us when the needs of our students are a little bit more than we can manage is awesome. We're continuing with our elementary and middle school day treatment programs. We're very excited about those. And then we're really looking forward to bringing back our Cabarrus County Schools experiential community provider fair. We haven't been able to do that the last couple of years. And so what we do on September 26th, is that right, John? Yeah. Professional Development Day is that we bring all of our CISP, all of our counselors, social workers, psychologists together, and all of our community providers, not just mental health services. We're talking social services and boys and girls clubs and mentors and advocacy agencies like Ms. Fitzwater was talking about. They come and they set up and we give them these different scenarios so that our folks at the schools, they have to problem solve for students and families. So how do I get access to safe housing or clothing referrals or anything like that? And so that's really how we get to introduce all of our new folks to our community providers. So we're super excited about that. Let's see what else. Moving forward with our partnership, so we spent a lot of time earlier talking about school safety, and so just want to reinforce the fact that we have these amazing community partners. So we have representation on the Cabarrus County Child Protection and Fatality Team, Human Trafficking Task Force, and so on. Really healthy partnerships with social services, Department of Human Services, Child Protective Services. So everyone's kind of ready and geared up. We've all exchanged everyone's contact information, and everybody has a liaison at the schools and these service agencies. And then last but not least, just want to mention our social emotional learning curriculum. We are well underway with our P2 Positivity Project. We had our leader and champion training last week, and it was great. People are really, really excited. I think if you ask any of the folks that attend and plus the administrators to have this universal support to support our students is very exciting. And then the same thing with Panorama as well. So hopefully with these initiatives in place, we can catch every child who might need something, who may not want to say something. So we're really working on our training and professional development in those two areas. Any questions?
Mrs. Jewell, your social workers, you're staffing there? You're staffing for your social workers?
Yep. So we were going in with 32. I currently have 30, but the last two recommendations were made today. And very excited about the candidates. So we feel really good about the CISP teams going into this year.
Thank you.
Sure.
Board members, comments or questions?
So you have 32, or you will have 32
I will have
social
32,
workers,
yes.
but you need all the schools covered, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That would be great. So it's 32, hopefully, across the 45 schools. So there are still split positions, but we are moving in the right direction with the support of HR and finance. So hopefully that number will keep going up.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And then our last two presentations this evening, Mr. Basilis, and then followed by Dr. Bish.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thanks for having me this evening. I wanted to give you a brief overview of some updates on COVID protocols. They are largely unchanged from the end of last school year, but I do want to do a quick review for you and for the public that's watching, just to ensure that you all understand that we've remained on top of this situation. We've met throughout the summer with the health department, with the Cabarrus Health Alliance, to ensure that we have the most current and safest protocols we can offer for you all. So little has changed in terms of what occurs when somebody is out sick. If somebody's COVID positive or symptomatic, the requirement remains that they stay out for 5 days. When they return, the requirement is that they return in a mask for the next 5 days. Families can choose to not return for those 5 days, and those absences will be counted as excused. Now, what's been updated most recently, last week, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has allowed on day 6 through 10, if a student has 2 consecutive negative tests on their return, 2 consecutive negative tests that are 48 hours apart, they can end the mask requirement at that point. Does that make sense to you all? So in other words, they come back on day 6, conceivably they test negative on day 6, 2 days later on day 8 they test negative, they're no longer required to wear the mask through day 10. I think that's probably the most significant.
John, no, I want to clarify that.
Sure.
Just because I think that got a little convoluted. So 5 days.
That's right.
They're out.
Correct.
After the first positive. 5 days with a mask. But they're going to have to be tested on the 6th day and the 8th day.
They don't have to be tested on the 6th day and the 8th day. If they'd like to abbreviate the time that they're required to wear a mask, they can test if they choose to on days 6 and 8, or conceivably days 7 and 9, really, if they chose to. It's any time on or after the 6th day, as long as it's 2 consecutive negative tests on or after the 6th day, provided they're 48 hours apart.
Okay, so I am going to let board members ask questions because there's a lot of talk right now, so hang on, everybody. But I need you to just run that through one more time, just so the viewing audience hears that totally and completely. From the time they test positive, what happens?
So they test positive, or they're symptomatic. They're out for 5 days. Okay? And then on return, they're out for 5 days, provided those are 5 school days. Obviously, we don't say you're out 5 days if 2 of those days are weekend days or teacher work days or something. So 5 days from the time of the positive test. And then they can return. And we're assuming that they're improving, that they don't have fever, that their symptoms are improving, right? And then they're able to return for days 6 through 10 wearing a mask. Now, if they want to shorten that mask period, they can test. They can have 2 consecutive negative tests on or after day 6, so long as those 2 tests are 48 hours apart.
No contact tracing, no quarantine.
There are no contact tracing. There is no quarantining. If you're out, it's because you're sick. You're either symptomatic or you have a COVID positive test.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's probably should have led with that.
That's
Thank
really
you.
important right now.
Yeah.
Ms. Blackwell.
All right. So, a couple questions. So you say symptomatic. Now, my question to you is, are they required to take a COVID test if they are symptomatic with stuffy nose, cough, congestion, that type of thing? Are we requiring a COVID test if they are symptomatic?
So we are not requiring a COVID test of them. They can be out for those 5 days if they choose to, or they can test negative if they have COVID symptoms, and they either get a differential diagnosis or a negative PCR test or a negative antigen test. Lab confirmed. These have to be lab confirmed tests. So these aren't the home tests, right? If you have a negative test and you're symptomatic, you can return to school, provided your symptoms are improving and you don't have a fever for 24 hours.
So if you are sick, we are not allowing you to come to school with symptoms of any sort. So if you don't want to take a COVID test, how is that going to be how is that going to be processed? Because, and I ask this because there are parents that do not want their children to be COVID tested.
Okay.
So they could have a cold, they could have the flu, they could have multiple different viruses.
So I guess the best way to answer that is that it seems to me that the NCDHHS guidance gives a lot of deference and respect to the choice that parents want to make for their children. So the first thing that occurs to me is that if a parent wanted to get a differential diagnosis, if they wanted to go to a healthcare provider who said, this is not COVID, there's no reason for you to be out 5 days, that would be acceptable. So certainly parents could, if they were not inclined to get a COVID test for whatever their aversion to the COVID test was, but they did have a trusted healthcare provider that they did believe was able to offer a differential diagnosis, they certainly could use that. That's for sure. I think the rest of it is.
Well, so I guess my question too is partly. I'm sorry, y'all. So if a child comes to class Okay. And a teacher notices that they have a stuffy nose or a cough.
Okay.
And they send them to the nurse's office and say, this child is sick. What is the protocol going to be for that? If, let's say, a parent does not want their child COVID tested, are they not going to be allowed back in the classroom? Are they going to have to go home?
Okay, so if they have COVID symptoms, like if we think that they have COVID symptoms and the parent does not want them to be tested, then you're right, they would go home for a period of 5 days.
So we are assuming if a parent, if a child doesn't want, I know you're laughing, but I'm telling you that these are real life scenarios that are going to happen. So we need to just knock this out now, because before school starts, it's better to go ahead and just have it all out there.
Okay.
So if a kid comes to school and they've got a stuffy nose, and they are sent to the nurse's office and they say, you have COVID symptoms,
okay,
but my child is not going to be tested for COVID, we are stating that we are not going to allow that child back into the classroom for a period of 5 days. Is that correct?
I'm trying to follow everything you've said.
So let me receive.
Thank you.
Here, I think it's pretty cut and dry. If you take a COVID test and you come back positive, you have to stay home for 5 days.
Correct.
Upon return, you have to wear a mask for 5 days, or you can test earlier, 2 consecutive negative tests, you don't have to wear a mask. If you test positive for COVID and you're out 5 days and you don't want to come back to school wearing a mask, then you're out 10 days, you come back, or 2 consecutive tests. We are not going to be policing everybody's got a runny nose, a head cold, a stuffy nose. We're going to send them to the nurse and treat them as if we would any other student. I understand what you're asking, but I don't want to, we're not going to be policing the situation and assuming people have COVID. The only way we're going to know if you have COVID is if we have a positive test. And if that positive test comes back and we're aware of it, then you're going to be out 5 days. Am I clear on that, John?
Yes. Well,
so we're not assuming anybody's positive unless we have a positive. The only way we're going to know positive test is if you're positive. If we have the test says you're positive. There's no assumption here that if a child is sent down to the nurse that they have a stuffy nose, a head cold, that we're not assuming COVID.
I don't know how to answer that question fully, because if somebody has the symptoms of COVID, right? I'm not saying that we're assuming that they're COVID positive. I'm saying that for the lack of a negative test and for lack of a differential diagnosis, a symptomatic student would be out for those 5 days.
Is that what I'm not interpreting DHS that way.
So I will go back into the NCDHS guidance, but that is what I have here, because that would be why we would be looking for the alternate diagnosis or the differential diagnosis.
So I just want to ask real quick, who does that fall under to make that determination? The nurse, the teacher? Who's going to make that decision if that child is symptomatic enough to go home 4 or 5 days?
Okay.
Without a positive COVID test.
So your question is who's making that determination at the school level? So I'm going to have to get back with you with a precise answer on that. It's my inclination is to say that would tend to be the school nurse who would be able to make some determination as to what they're looking at in terms of whether that was COVID symptomatic or if there's some other logical explanation for it that is outside of COVID.
Okay, and my recommendation would be, and board members, and when we open up the floor can chime in, I think on open house nights, especially for elementary age, that needs to be very clear to parents what is going to take place. And I think we all need to be very clear as well, because we're going to start getting a lot of phone calls about kids being sent home, that here we go again this year. So we need an update, number one, and I think at the open houses that determination needs to be very clear to parents.
Sure. Well, let me be clear about a few things. First of all, there are multiple avenues for parents to be able to have their kids remain in school, right? So for those who are not averse to testing, and I understand that there's wide-scale institutional distrust. I probably use that term with you guys more than any other term that I mentioned last year. But for those parents who trust the tests, for those parents who believe that the PCR tests and the antigen tests are accurate, there's a clear pathway for their students to be able to return quickly through a negative test. For those parents who trust their healthcare provider being able to give them a differential diagnosis certainly gives them a very clear pathway back to being able to attend school. I do understand what your point is, that there are some people who are outside of that, and we need to have a respect for them as well. I'll make sure that by the time we have open house, we give you guys guidance as to who makes that determination.
That would be great, because I'm not sure everybody's going to want to be running their children to doctors time and time again, co-pays, if they can actually get those notes, get those kids in, because kids, we're getting ready to enter winter season. That's going to happen time and again.
Right. We'll still have testing in our school sites, right? So if the concern is I can't run my kid to the doctor for a testing procedure, we'll still have that available in schools.
Okay.
So I mean that still will continue. So again, that's elective for the parents, absolutely.
Right.
I want to adopt
so that communication, we can get that out. We're on the same page here. If a child is sick, COVID or otherwise, they should be home.
Well, that's true.
So that I think that's where we start.
Yes.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If a child is sick, they should be home. We don't assume if a child is sent to the nurse that it's COVID. If the child isn't feeling well and is sick, that's a conversation between the nurse and the parent. Whether it's COVID or not, if they're not feeling well, they should be home. The positive test for COVID kicks in the protocols as the 5 days, et cetera, what would happen. But we're not assuming every kid has COVID. If a child comes down and the nurse is sick, and we have a conversation with the parent, that child would go home. That being said, what I would say to you then is we probably need to communicate to our principals and look at the DHSS requirements just to make sure we're clear. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I don't want to make assumptions falsely. But my point is, every child sent to the nurse doesn't mean it's COVID.
No,
they're just not feeling well, they're sick. If a child is sick, COVID or otherwise, a child should be home.
Of course not.
And when a child turns positive, and the symptoms is what we have to look at, we can have that conversation. Let's look at that again and be more clear about our communication with our principals and our parents.
Right, absolutely. So I guess I don't want anybody to walk out of here tonight thinking that the nurse is here to try to sort of assign a COVID diagnosis or a COVID assumption to every student who comes in to see them because they have a runny nose. If that's what you're hearing me say, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that ultimately I'll get you communication on how the nurse or who will make that determination. But I do believe that when a nurse sees a student, they'll be in a position to make some determination as to whether they believe that's COVID symptoms or otherwise explained by some other, something else going on from a healthcare perspective. But if a student has a fever, they don't belong in school. They don't. If a student is sick, they really should not be in school. They should not be there.
No, if a child is ill, the child should be home, COVID or otherwise. Agreed.
Right, and that's the question, is if they're really sick, if they're core symptomatic fever, that type thing, but not just the sniffles or a little cough, that's going to happen a lot. So I think there's a big difference between those two. That's a lot of responsibility to put on those nurses. Speaking of which, and I'll open up the floor, but because it's going to be asked, how are we with nurses in the schools?
So as of today, we have 9 openings for school nurses. Now, in terms of the hiring that the health department, that CHA has done in the last few weeks, they have 4 positions that will be filled by this time next month. A lot of that has to do with the 30-day notice that employers are now requiring before they'll release nurses to be able to work with us. So this time next month, we'll still have 5 openings for school nurses. Folks, you all understand probably as well as I do what's going on. Hospital systems are paying large bonuses for nurses to come work for them, and public health and school health can't compete with that. I mean, I have one report of a healthcare system offering a $15,000 bonus. And so as dedicated as somebody might be to the work, that's a large amount of money to say no to. It just is. So I think of this in terms of the 4 F's for nurses. Nurses have, the finances, right? $15,000 is a lot to turn your nose at, no matter how dedicated you are. Another one is the flexibility that is sometimes offered. So there's some flexibility that comes to our school nurses when it comes to taking other positions. A case management position that they could work from home, that offers them some flexibility that we can't offer. There's a lot of fatigue, and specifically compassion fatigue and burnout out there for nurses. They took, in my experience, nurses took a lot of the brunt of the difficult communication in the last few years, and that wears on you after a while, for sure. And the last one is family, of course. Nurses, they're a profession that intermittently people will go on leave and when to expand their families. And as you have any of those 4 Fs occur, there's sort of a domino effect that will create more openings to be filled.
All right. Board members, comments or questions? Mr. Farrer, I'll start with you.
I don't really, only comment I got is, I love John, but dang, he gives me a headache. I thought we were done with this, but let him get back with more information, then we'll talk about it. Right now, and I don't see any reason to keep going.
Mr. Walter?
Yeah, a couple things. To the point, if a nurse is going to assess something, every single question they're asking has to do with either an allergy or a watery eyes or a nose or a headache or a fever. It's all going to be COVID. So they're the same symptoms. There's no way they can differentiate by that. So I think they have to assume that it's going to have to go through a process. So you're going to require a family member to go to a doctor, or you're going to require this child to get a test to come back to school, is what's going to end up happening, even if the child just happens to have allergies that one day. So I see the point there. The issue, you said that our policy hasn't changed since last school year. I mean, obviously things have changed over the summer with COVID. What is that policy based on? Is that still based on the toolbook? And then how is that policy, how do we change that? Or what's the process of that being changed?
So the Strong Schools Toolkit has sunsetted. That specific document is no longer dictates what schools are required to do to be able to respond to COVID. There is a substitute document now that we get from North Carolina DHHS that gives us guides those categories that I just said to you. Now, the level of granularity that you guys are asking about, how does the nurse make that determination, make that assessment? I can't answer that, but I don't think that they're going to make the assumption automatically that somebody has COVID because they have the sniffles.
Well, they wouldn't know. I mean, you wouldn't know. You don't know. But my point being, as policy, this thing about 5 days and then you got to wear a mask for 5 days, but if you go get tested on day 6 and day 8,
that is what's brand new.
So you were telling people to jump through these hoops for 2 days without a mask? That seems ridiculous to me. That's kind of the thing I'm talking about. Where's that policy, and why is that? Is that something we have to go by?
Sure.
Or is that something that we make that?
We don't have to. I mean, that's an option to allow people to minimize the mask period if they choose to. That's an option for people to reduce the length of time that somebody's required to wear a mask.
But that's jumping through hoops for two days.
Who came up with that option?
That came just through NCDHHS.
But that's not something that we necessarily have to adhere to?
So if you want to, I don't know how to answer that. It seems to me that if you wanted to require that people wear masks longer, you could. But it was my experience that your goals were largely to reduce the length of time.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying, after 5 days of whatever the case may be, I'm trying to, I understand what you're saying, we don't want to prolong the masks at all. I'm trying to understand, what are we required to adhere to, and what are we not required to adhere to?
So the requirement that we're required to adhere to, if you're COVID positive, so if you're sick, if you're COVID positive, so you take a positive, you test positive, or you have COVID symptoms, then you would be out for 5 days. And then on return, you'd be wearing a mask through day 10, unless you choose to shorten that time period by testing negative on days 6 and 8.
And that is, again, where does that come from?
That's from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and the most recent iteration of their guidance, which I believe came out last Thursday.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Can either the board chair and the board vice chair have with the superintendent have a meeting to ask these specific questions, and then that be communicated somewhere to the general public? Because John is not I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, John, but it doesn't sound like you have the specific information that the board needs to be able to make a decision if we have to.
I don't know that I agree with
Can
that.
I interrupt for just a moment? Because I know that the nurses have their protocol meeting tomorrow at 12. Is that right? For COVID? So we're probably having this meeting a little early for you to be giving us an update on what the nurses are being told that they're going to have to do anyway. So can we do that? Let them have their meeting, and then either Dr. Kopicki and myself and Laura and you get together and kind of figure out, because we do need to get this out to the general public. They need to be prepared for what they're going to be presented with.
I'd like to ask to say one thing that's very important to say, and I don't think that this is, I don't think I've got a chance to really say this to you all yet. Under the only current mask requirement for COVID is if somebody's was positive or symptomatic and they come back on day 6 through 10. If they choose to come back on day 6 through 10, that's the only time anybody's required to wear a mask.
That's not the issue, though.
Okay.
The issue is we don't understand who is requiring somebody to even get a test to determine if they gotta wear a mask. That's what I'm hearing, and we can't answer that question tonight, it sounds.
You're saying at the school level, who is making that determination?
No, beyond that, I hear the board, several board members asking who determines what happens when a child has the sniffles, or a staff for that matter. Who determines if they're required to go get a test, and then who does all of that testing stuff? And then what if they don't want to get a test? That is where the questions are. And correct me if I'm wrong. And it doesn't sound like we have that tonight. And I'm getting a headache listening to all of this confusion. No disrespect to anybody, but there's several questions that we just can't answer right now. We're confusing the board and the public, in my opinion. I'm sorry for all that, but.
So let me go back and we can put a communication together and get that out this week to our principals and to our community. Okay, there is updated guidance on the K-12 settings that were updated recently with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. It's been updated as recently as August 18th, and we can get that communication out to the community this week, and we'll talk with the nurses tomorrow and kind of put this to bed. I think the gist of what we were trying to say this evening, and I'll leave it at this, was if you are positive with COVID, you are going to be out of school for 5 days. And I'll just leave it at that. Then when you return, the recommendation, it is my understanding, the recommendation then is you mask for 5 days after that, and then you're free to come back. You're in school. While in school, if it's on days between day 6 and 10, when you return to school, if you have 2 negative tests, a mask is not required. We are only talking about those students that are positive, that we're aware are positive. So some of the questions that you're asking, while good questions, I think that requires some more conversations with nursing staff, because we are only talking about my intent tonight was to only talk about what happens if a student is positive with COVID. This is the requirement. If you're positive with COVID, you're out for 5 days, period. If you return after that, when you return to school, if you're in school, you wear a mask for 5 days. Or between day 5 and 10, you have 2 negative tests, you don't. That was it. The rest of the questions you're asking were good questions. Let us go back, talk with the nursing staff, look back at the guidance again that was updated August 18th, and get that communication out to our public. And we'll do that via our website, our communications department, or principals. Okay?
Thank you, because I
Thank
think
you.
it is clear what happens when they're positive.
Yes.
That's clear.
And that was
But-
the intent of what we said. Some of these other questions, to your point, we're not as well prepared to answer those this evening. We will make sure that we get that out within the next 48 hours.
Okay, great. John, just one more question. You said we're short 9, possibly later on in the school year down to 5. What will they do, the schools that are short? What's
Sure.
the
So
coverage?
all schools that don't have full nursing coverage, there'll be a rotational basis where they'll have nursing coverage. They'll be scheduled for nursing coverage 4 days a week. And so it's not as though those schools will be unserved. The Health Alliance has come up with a rotational schedule that will ensure that there'll be some form of coverage for 4 days a week for those schools.
And I'm assuming that's only going to be until they are fully staffed.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, great. All right.
I have
Thank
a
you.
follow-up
Can I ask
question.
a question about
Ms.
that
Adcock?
as far as the openings that we have?
Sure.
Is there a way that maybe we could ask them to get LPNs or CMAs in our schools? I know that they don't even use nurses anymore in the doctor's offices.
Sure. So your question is, can they get LPNs?
LPNs and CMAs.
And CNAs, that's the same question I was going to ask.
Okay.
Does it have to be a registered nurse in that position?
Isn't that what we've asked for, though?
I will
mean,
get you guys an answer to that question in the next 24 hours.
Okay, anybody else with, I'm sure he's got a list now to make sure
do.
that we get a good update, and we'll talk, especially after the nurses meeting tomorrow. I'm sure they'll have a better direction.
Yeah, I'd like to again consider going back to the way it was prior to COVID. If someone's sick, please stay home. If they have symptoms, stay home.
Right, of
But
course.
Otherwise, if they come back after the 5 days and they're fine, this mask thing is
I see.
kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's just not our, we don't have the discretion to say we won't do that.
Okay, that's kind of what I want to hear. We don't have the
We
discretion for
don't.
that.
That's an NCD HHS requirement. What we're describing is how to minimize the time in masks.
Thank you, John.
Sure, thank you.
I'm sorry, one more time. John, I just wanted to apologize. What I just said was not directed at you. I just wanted to make sure you heard me say
Sure,
that.
I do. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Dr. Kopicki.
Dr. Bish.
Good evening. I do want to share an update on human resources for you. It was really gratifying to hear so many of our principals talk about the hard work of HR, and I want to publicly share that the work that we've done has been our goal. Dr. Williams and I have had a goal of partnering with all departments and all schools to make it a collaborative effort. Dr. Williams and I did present at RISE. It was a tough thing to pull off, to do 4 presentations when we are the week before school and hiring, but we did, and it was an extremely gratifying thing to get to work together with our teachers and principals. I want to give enormous credit to Dr. Williams and the work that he's done on recruitment and staffing and creatively working with schools on how do we look differently. I'm not the creative person. Once you give me the idea, I can morph it and move it and massage it, but I can't create the idea. It's just not there. I had to accept that a long time ago. He creates the ideas, and then he comes and says, what about this? And then we figure out a way to make it work. One of the things that we did early on is that we started vetting participate teachers tightly through HR. And this year we have 52 participate teachers who have arrived in district, and it was a joy to welcome them in batches as they came into HR. So we have 52 around our district, which has helped with staffing tremendously. We also have set up tiered support for schools, much like the MTSS process. So our tier 3, as we've shared with you before, are schools that have larger numbers of first-year teachers will receive additional coaching and support through our Title II plan. We have looked at hiring some retired teachers who have enormous skills and still want to participate. They can work up to 29 hours a week with small groups of first-year teachers, go in, be in their classrooms, support them, co-teach with them, be a one-on-one mentor that is more able to help them in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. So we're working on that as well, and it is off and running. The question was asked earlier, I think, how many first-year teachers? We had 87 first-year teachers at new teacher orientation. We have since hired some more, so I'm going to tell you that our first-year teachers are somewhere around 100 is where we will probably land. We had an additional 160 or so teachers at new teacher orientation that were experienced but new to the district. We have since added to that. So right now we have 20 schools that I can verify are fully staffed. We are processing, as you heard our principals say. I will tell you that in June, I just was wondering why on earth I came out of retirement to face 135 openings in our classroom teachers in a hiring season that's incredible, particularly for education. Today, I can tell you that we have fewer than 18 elementary teachers, classroom teachers. We have 2, 4, 7 middle school teachers, and we have 14, 18, 19, 20, no, sorry. Math was not my strong point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Less than 10 high school classroom teachers. Now, do we have other openings? Yes, but these are teachers in front of our children that we need for day one. I'm proud of that. We are well under 50 when we started with well over 130. I'll take that. When CMS is saying they need 400 and Wake County 400, I know those are massive systems, but I'll take ours. And we've worked hard to get there. We're continuing to work hard. We're processing every day. We're working on alternative licensure and lots of creative ways to make sure that we're covering our students. But that's kind of where we are. We are also working on transportation, custodial, teacher assistants, all of them. But my focus right now is classroom teachers in front of children by next Monday. So that's kind of where we are in HR.
Okay, I will open it up one more time. Ms. Sandage? Okay, Mr. Walter?
As Ms. Bullock mentioned, there was some issues when you're trying to hire somebody and they're not able to get through the vetting process. Some things as simple as they can't get the right paperwork. Is that part of the issue, or is that? Okay.
No, we will help people with paperwork, but there are some non-negotiables, and those are the only ones that don't make it through.
Mr. Farr?
Appreciate your effort. I know you and Michael keep getting after it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Blackwell?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know that you have busted y'all's honeys to make this happen, so we are truly grateful. And listening to when Holly and I went to that meeting with some of the other chairs and vice chairs to hear the amount and percentage of openings that they have versus ours, that just tells me that you guys are working day and night to make sure that we have the staff that we need here within the school system. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter?
Again, I just want to thank you again for all the hard work, because again, I've heard the same thing from districts around us with their numbers and what they need, and what you've just said. Again, we still need subs, right?
We have far more than we did have, and so I can answer that a little better once school gets open. But we had a little bit of an outbreak of COVID this summer at Wolf Meadow. We covered it. Even in the summer, we had it covered with our subs.
And basically with subs, it's just a high school diploma that they need.
That's a high school diploma, and then they must take effective teacher training. We have a process that they go through.
Well, I knew
yes.
there was a training class, but basically they just have to have their high school diploma.
Yes.
But because everybody I run into always say, "Don't you want a sub?" But
send them on over.
Thank you all for what y'all have done.
Thank you.
Ms. Adcock?
Just ditto, the same. You have a great group of people that use innovative and creative thinking, which is great. And just to know that we're not where we were last year is an absolute blessing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Bish. We really appreciate that. There's a lot of stuff going around on social media, and not that we ever take light being short one teacher, but definitely not to the degree that we were seeing in the past couple of months. So thank you for your hard work, and Dr. Williams as well. Okay.
I'm sorry. I had some questions. I just didn't want to go first.
Okay. Go, Ms. Sandage.
All right. Sorry about that. So in light of all of the discussions or all of the presentations that we've had tonight that highlighted, you know, places where we have fully staffed and places where we don't have staff, and then just the excitement around coming back to school, which I don't want to see go anywhere if I had my magic wand. So with all that being said, what are we doing about retention? We've talked, you know, extensively, well, not extensively, we've hinted to a retention specialist here in the district. Can you speak to that, or can you tell us when you can speak to what that person is doing?
Right, I can give you part of that. We have 2 positions open in my department right now, so Leslie has had to kind of swing over and help a little. Part of retention is how we bring teachers in through new teacher orientation and the induction process. And so revamping that induction process was critical this year. It went back to being a conference style, much like RISE, but smaller. It was at Hickory Ridge High School, and we provided the kind of professional development targeted to the role the teacher would have. EC teachers had EC professional development. CTE teachers had CTE, counselors had counselors, as well as general. So in my mind, we begin retention by bringing you in with excitement and making you feel that you are a part of, and I appreciated you being there and Mr. Walter being there, to make sure our teachers know that from day one, we're going to prepare you to go into that classroom. So the second piece that we're working on goes to that beginning teacher. Teachers, if we can get them through the 3rd year under non-COVID time, if we can get them to the 3rd year, they pretty much have their feet under them and they don't feel overwhelmed. So part of it is tiering the support so that if I'm in a school and there are 12 beginning teachers, I'm going to need support, because that principal is not going to have the ability to have somebody working with 12 different teachers. So we're going to bring coaches in and we're going to provide the support for them. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that when we look at our teacher leader cohort that we've been doing since it was created, I created it when I was here 10 years ago, we are revamping that so that our teachers are able to see different pathways of leadership. Right now, we have a tendency to think that if I want to move to leadership, I have to be an administrator. But that's not true. So we want to now be able to guide teachers who are ready to move into leadership to stay in the profession and have leadership roles within the profession other than being a school administrator, because some don't. We are getting ready to start writing the grant for advanced teacher roles, which is what that goes to, which is a piece of retention as well, to say there are advanced teacher roles that you can take, remain a teacher, but move forward in leadership and responsibility. So all of those are pieces that we're putting together in terms of retention, if that makes sense.
It does. Thanks for that. So when you get the 2 staff that you need, then this person can focus specifically on. Okay.
And we are still doing those things. Everything that I've just said is still going on.
I got you.
Those pieces are still there. Developing them further, but they will all be put in place this school year. We started with new teacher orientation. We're revamping the teacher leadership cohort. We're applying for the advanced teacher roles grant from the state. All of those pieces are still in process. We are still doing all of those.
So if somebody has and somebody being staff, somebody being community, whatever have you, if they have suggestions that we may not be trying, or if it's a staff for that matter that has a suggestion that may make their life a little bit easier in this culture that we're in right now, I know they take that to their principal, but if I'm getting an email or if board members are getting emails, that suggests to me that they've already done that and that hasn't worked out for whatever that specific issue. What do you tell that person?
I would say there's 2 things. Number one, we have our assistant superintendents for each of the levels. They are there to support teachers as well, and they can certainly contact them. And I am absolutely happy to have anybody email me. I have teachers email me daily, and I communicate with them on different opportunities for them. I've gone out and met with them. I've had coffee with them after hours. I am always available to talk through things and to problem solve with them. But we have the assistant superintendents and myself, and Dr. Williams has done the same thing. He's met folks after hours. We both do that very frequently.
Okay, and that came from the suggestion that was given to me about EC coaches, bringing those back. And I might have the terminology incorrectly, but if somebody is suggesting that, and it could be plausible, to help out, what do they take that to?
They take it to that, like if it's an EC thing, they would go to Angela Fitzwater, and that would come to her. If it's something that they're not sure to whom it should go, they can certainly contact me, and I will put them in touch with the right person.
Well, it's come to me already, so I'm going to just send it to you. How about that? All right. So I am a volunteer. I get the little card that says, hey, you can go into the schools and volunteer, right? Are there things that volunteers can do that they don't have to necessarily be on the roster? I'm not on the roster, but an employee of CCS for. I'm not playing football here. I'm talking about like being in the schools, right? That would help out the staff that are in the building. Like, for example, and this goes to Laura's point earlier about visitors. Are we allowed to, as volunteers, like, for example, I hear teachers saying they need help with copying. I don't know what some of the things are, but is there any limitations as to what they cannot do because they're simply a volunteer? And I hope I'm making sense, because what I'm trying to figure out is, I know we have staffing shortages, but we also have people who are willing to go in and volunteer and help out to those things that'll make staff's job a little bit easier.
Right, and so this goes back to the plan for as we gradually reopen schools to volunteers, and certainly we want them back in the building. There are some limitations. Our volunteers don't have access to information about children that would violate FERPA. They can go in the classrooms assisting teachers. They can help with reading groups, small groups. Volunteers are certainly welcome, particularly at our elementary schools. Volunteers do a lot of work. The copying, what we used to see is I had an instructor who called them the 10 to 2 brigade, the 10 to 2 moms who would come in from 10 to 2 and help out. And we still love them and have them. There's lots of things they can do, the copying, lots of other things, but they also help out in the classrooms as well. The only place that we do not have it is when there is information that would violate the child's FERPA rights. And so we wouldn't be giving them information about a child's grades or anything about the child with counseling or anything about with the family situation of a child. But they often come out and help in the cafeteria. Imagine kindergartners learning to go through the cafeteria line the first week. And so lots of times those volunteers are in the cafeteria to assist children in those early weeks of school. There are plenty of things they can do, and as we gradually reopen our schools to those volunteers, there are plenty of places that we could use their help.
Not a question, but I just want to end on saying this. I've heard a lot today, and just in general, as I've been on the board, we are doing as much as we can do in these trying times. We are not the only school district that is experiencing the things that we are experiencing. We get a lot of heat sometimes about what is or is not happening in the district, and I think that is suggestive to me, and this is my social worker coming out, as everybody being a part of the village. Stop throwing stones at this glass that we need everybody to be a part of making sure it's successful, because in all honesty, education is the nucleus of any community that you go into. What I have decided to do in my little small world, in my little small financial box, is to sponsor a teacher. A staff. We've got 4,500 staff here. We've got hundreds of thousands of people in this community who could sponsor a staff. Think outside of the box and, try to bring everybody together, as opposed to finding all of these negative things that are happening, and do something about it. And I'm just using my platform to say that to the entire community that's watching and that's throwing the stones and sending us emails. So I'll end there.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I would echo your thoughts that we're not perfect. I stepped into HR in a new role, and I'm not perfect, and I'd been away for some time, retired for 4 years, so I was relearning. But I will tell you that the only reason I did it is I believe deeply in Cabarrus County Schools, and I believe deeply in public education. And I believe that we have a great deal to be proud of, and we focus on what we want to focus on. And so, in Jimmy Cass's word, carry the banner of all that's good, and keep working at what we need to improve. That's about all I can do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bish. Okay, board members, we are going to move on to 5.1. I guess that's what we actually made that. 5.1, our action item. If we could have Mr. Chuck Taylor to the podium, please. And board members, this is the item added for approval of the, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have John LeGrand to the podium.
I'm not Chuck Taylor, but I'm going to present. So in fiscal year 21-22, FMD requested and received county funds in the amount of $1.8 million for the purchase, delivery, and movement of mobile units. Tonight, I'm asking for approval for the purchase of a delivery and I'm asking for approval of the purchase and delivery of a used 10-plex mobile unit. The price of the unit is $745,637. This mobile unit is necessary for ongoing and unpredictable growth in Cabarrus County. This item is being brought to you tonight as this purchase is time sensitive due to a strong market demand.
Board members, any comments or questions? I'll begin with Ms. Adcock.
Where is this going? Which school is this going to?
We have a couple of different options that are reaching capacity, and we are looking at a possibility of 3 to 4 schools, and it's going to be moved to the one that needs it the most. It hadn't been finalized at this point, but any of those schools could use it in the near future.
And so we would still have capacity issues at the other schools that didn't have the mobile units?
Yes, that we will have to look at singular mobile units. These are, this is a 10-plex mobile unit. It's one of the bigger complex modular units.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter?
Now, I was assured that we had the money. Is this going to be coming out of fund balance?
No, this is from the amount that was given to us by the county for the purchase and delivery of mobile units.
Oh, okay. So it was out of budget then.
Yeah, it was.
So it's not coming out of fund balance.
It was a budget request that was approved and funded by the county.
Oh, okay. So it's been funded. Okay, so it's not coming out of fund balance.
It's not coming out of fund balance. Nope.
Okay, and so will we be getting it before the start of school, or when is delivery of this?
This is technically a used unit, but it is still on the assembly line. A charter school bought it and then had to back out, and so this is supposed to be completed in October, and we will get the unit at that point. The reason we're bringing it forward tonight is as soon as the charter school backed out on it, there were several school districts that expressed interest in this 10-plex because there are very few of those out on the market right now, and we're trying to get out ahead of that and be able to purchase it as early as tomorrow.
Okay.
Ms. Blackwell?
Forgive my ignorance on mobile units, but when you say a 10-plex modular unit, how many kids, how many people is that going to hold?
It has 10 classrooms and restrooms included. It's a modular unit. It's a large unit that has 5 classrooms on one side, a male and a female bathroom. So 10 classrooms. If it's at the elementary level, we're looking at roughly 18 to 20 kids. If we're looking at the secondary level, it could be as much as 30 to 35 kids per unit times 10. So we're looking somewhere between 200 and 350 adding that amount of capacity at the school that it will be delivered to.
Now, are we getting like some kind of deal on this because they backed out, or like
this unit normally sells for a lot more, but because it's used and technically used, and the original owner is not purchasing it, and the fact that there's very little availability. It's almost like the used car market at this point. As soon as something good hits the market, everybody jumps on it and attempts to buy it.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
Mr. Furr?
So how many empty mobile units do we have now? Singles?
We have, Chuck, 5 empty mobile units.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Walter?
So where do we have 10-plex units where we're using them now?
We have them at RCCC. We just put a 10-plex in there at the early college. That one's being used there. We've got them at Cab Tech. There's 2 different big modular units that we're utilizing at that facility, or that campus as well.
One's a cafeteria, something, right?
One of them's a cafetorium. It serves as an admin office and cafeteria, and for any other use that needs a large area. And the other one is a classroom building that houses only classrooms. This will be a classroom building that could be added to a school facility. The advantage of these are they do have a bathroom inside. You don't have to leave to go inside of the building to utilize the restroom, and they are not out in the elements. Once you get in the building, it is enclosed, just like the inside building would be.
Okay, so once you purchase it, what does it cost to install it or get it ready for students?
Chuck, you want to speak to that?
It's roughly $400,000 to $500,000.
On top of the purchase price. So we won't be able to get a whole lot more mobile units based on
we have 1.8 from the county, and this would be 7 and 4, I guess a little north of $1 million. However, we're getting 10 units or 10 classrooms for that amount of money.
Okay, if you can send us the details on the vendor and that stuff, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure will.
Ms. Sandage?
I don't have any questions. Sounds pretty simple. We need the mobile unit, right?
We definitely need it. Yes, ma'am.
With that being said, may I have a motion that the purchase and delivery of a used modular unit from Vesta Modular in the amount of $745,637 be approved as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Sandage, a second by Ms. Blackwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, with that, board members, that ends our special called meeting. Anything else, board members, comments or questions? The takeaway tonight is we will definitely be having further discussion regarding the COVID protocol situation. It's okay. We'll discuss it. And we'll get that out to the board members and then out to the general public and make sure that they're updated at open houses and on the website and just anywhere we can get that information out. And with that being said, I would ask that I have a motion that the board convene in closed session to consult with an attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-31811A3 and to consider confidential personnel matters pursuant to General Statute 143-31811A6.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Blackwell, a second by Ms. Adcock. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are now in closed session. We will say goodnight to our viewing audience. Thank you for joining us tonight. We wish a very safe and good year to the students that are starting on August the 29th, and we will see you at the Board of Education's work session on September the 12th at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.